across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Tidy this place up. Top of the morning, and yes, folks, it is 6:02 a.m. It's not 5 a.m. We've lost an hour, but oh my goodness, are we coming in hot this morning. I'm Mark Dolan. This is Talk Breakfast. Happy Sunday, one and all. Breaking today, Starmer opens the floodgates to mass immigration as the Prime Minister plans to row back on tighter rules around indefinite leave to remain. Meanwhile, apocalypse for Labour in the local elections as they're predicted to lose every one of the 50 seats that they hold in Sunderland, and they could lose London too. Also this morning, Prince Harry hopeful of a reunion with his father and the royal family this summer in Sandringham, and Andrew Mountbatten Windsor investigated by the FBI over a claim that he sought young girls for sex on a royal tour to Peru. We've got the inside story. But are EU states starting to wake up to the demographic time bomb as it's revealed that several countries, including Germany, Italy and France, are going to ramp up deportation? When is it going to happen here in the UK? And the total wet wipe of a chairman of Ipswich Town Football Club has apologised for welcoming Nigel Farage to the stadium. Well, I'll be dealing with this man in no uncertain terms in a special Dolan's Dispatch at 9 a.m. You won't want to miss it. So much to get through. My phone number is 0344 499 1000, and Tommy is taking your calls this morning. I've got a simple question today. Will Labour break Britain? Whether it's Starmer or his replacement, Angela Rayner, the ginger growler herself, or Red Ed Miliband, it seems that we are doomed to having a Labour government for the next 3 years. Are they going to break Britain? Now, you can text the word TALK and your message to 87222, and we're going to prioritise voice notes this morning because we know you're busy on a Sunday. So all you do is call 0344 499 1000, wait for the beep, leave your message, and we put it on the radio and on the telly. Speaking of which, you can hear us on DAB+, in-app and online, or you can watch the show. Just head to YouTube and search Talk and up we pop. I'm delighted to say that Davis is directing our TV output today. In fact, Davis, do you want to give the camera a wiggle? Give us a wiggle, come on, let's do this. We got our camera away. Is it the problem with Davis? He's such a professional. He doesn't want to do anything that is not strictly appropriate. But we don't do that here on Breakfast because we're naughty. We have a bit of fun. Dean Spencer is the boss this morning, of course, the king of this place. The one and only lead engineer of Talk Breakfast is Dave. We've got so many people. Porrick working from home. We love his work. Have I forgotten anyone, Dean? It's a cast of thousands, but I can't do it without you. 0344 499 1000. We've lost an hour's sleep, but we're coming in hot. This is Talk Breakfast. And let's have a look at today's front pages. We start with the Sunday Telegraph. McSweeney told to hand over his private texts. Morgan McSweeney, the Prime Minister's former Chief of Staff, has been asked to hand over messages relating to Lord Mandelson from his private phone. Cabinet Office officials have requested Sir Keir Starmer's former Chief of Staff hand over any relevant messages from his personal mobile phone. The issue is that they want to investigate the context of the Mandelson scandal. This whole thing stinks. And isn't Sir Keir Starmer lucky that America and Israel are currently busy engaged in a war with Iran? He is so lucky because he's able to deflect from what appears to be a growing political scandal. I smell a rat. What is going on around the circumstances of the appointment of Peter Mandelson? What I find truly outrageous about this government is that they're claiming they didn't know the full scale of Lord Mandelson's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. The bottom line is they knew that this man was an admirer of and a good friend of Epstein well before they appointed him to the biggest job in British diplomacy. There doesn't need to be an inquiry. Heads must roll and the Prime Minister must resign, especially given the fact that poor old Boris Johnson lost his job because he stood near a glass of orange juice during that terrible global health crisis that was the bubonic plague turned out not to be. EU plots to plunder Chagos fishing rights after PM's surrender. You couldn't make it up, folks. We're giving away the Chagos Islands, which just in the last few weeks have been demonstrably proved to be militarily significant. We've got the Iranian regime trying to launch missiles on Diego Garcia, which is part of the Chagos Islands. It is a very, very important territory. We are paying billions to give it away to Mauritius, a country with no historic claim on those islands. And now the EU are looking to fish in those waters. Here's the story. The European Union has been accused of seeking to exploit Sir Keir Starmer's Chagos Islands surrender by securing fishing rights in the waters of the British territory. Brussels believes the Prime Minister's plan to transfer sovereignty could further increase the relevance of its existing fishing agreement with Mauritius by opening swathes of ocean around the Chagos Islands to French and Spanish vessels. A report from the European Commission, seen by the Telegraph, reveals it's watching Britain's Chagos deal with great interest. Of course they are, because they've always wanted our fish and they always will. We've got the Sunday Times now. SNP's billions to buy loyalty from charities. What is that? Grants ensure activists don't criticise policies on gender, alcohol and lead sexual violence. I don't know how this is the big story of the day. I don't understand it. I've not had a cup of tea yet, but let's just try and process this together. Come on, let's walk it through. Let's give them a chance. SNP's billions to buy loyalty from charities. Grants ensure activists don't criticise policies on gender, alcohol, drugs and sexual violence. The Scottish National Party has pumped millions of pounds into charities that support its policies, prompting accusations that it's using taxpayers' cash. Am I reading The Scotsman here? I don't understand. What's going on? Why is there an article about the SNP and charities on the front page of the Sunday Times, one of the greatest brands in Fleet Street? I'm just going to skip over that. Navy prepares drone-fitted ship to help clear mines in Hormuz. That's more like it. Britain is preparing to deploy a Royal Navy evacuation ship to the Strait of Hormuz, retrofitted with a fleet of autonomous mine-hunting drones. Ministers confirmed last week that RFA Lime Bay, an amphibious landing vessel undergoing routine maintenance in Gibraltar, was being sent to the Mediterranean to undertake training drills. Interesting stuff. We've also got Harry, I will bring the children if the King invites us. The Duke of Sussex, who's seen his father only twice in 2 years, hopes to be invited by the King to spend family time with his wife and 2 young children in Norfolk this summer. Presumably, they'll pop in and have a cup of tea with Uncle Andrew as well. Wouldn't that be fun? It's nearly 4 years since Archie and Lilibet saw their grandfather. The Duchess of Sussex has not visited Britain since September 2022. Well, I think the reason why she's not visited is because she knows that if she came here, she would be booed. Those close to Harry said he'd welcome an invitation to Sandringham, the King's estate in Norfolk, where the Prince and Princess of Wales also have their country home, which is Anmer Hall. It ain't going to happen, Harry. You can go whistle. You're not going to be welcomed to Sandringham because we've had Megxit. You decided that you hated this country. You decided you hated being a frontline serving royal. You decided that the press were racist, that the family were everyone was racist, basically. The countryside was racist. So I'm afraid you reap what you sow. Prince Harry being reacquainted with something of which he's a stranger, which is the consequences of his actions. Mail on Sunday, Middle East nightmare. 70 Britons arrested in UAE simply for taking war photos. As many as 70 Brits have been locked up in the United Arab Emirates for taking photos and videos of drone and missile attacks. It's not complicated, folks. The United Arab Emirates have law and order because they're very strict about their policing. They're very strict about the rules. And you know your obligations if you live there. It's a great place to live. The weather is good. They have law and order. It's incredibly safe. You could leave your mobile phone on a bench and come back 2 hours later. It'll still be there. There are no muggings. There's no sex crimes, no assaults. Women are safe at night. Women are respected. In fact, it is literally a masterclass in public order. But they're very strict. They don't mess around. It's not a democracy. And the police, they're more like an army. So you have to do what you're told. That is the price you pay. It's not a free society. It's, you know, the government, they're not elected. You can't get rid of them. And the police are robust. But the bottom line is, it's these influencers, right? These vain ne'er-do-wells with no job. Their only job is to be on Instagram doing selfies, eating sushi in the Middle East in an air-conditioned hotel. And they're taking pictures of drones and missiles and all the rest of it. They've been told not to. They're posting these things online. And hey, presto, they're getting arrested. Go figure. Exclusive. Meghan's dad, I found love again at 81. That's amazing, isn't it? Poor old Thomas Markle Sr., down to his last leg. Just a couple of months ago, he was fighting for his life in a Philippines intensive care unit. But there's a lady that appears to be the apple of his eye. Thomas Markle finds love with rehab nurse, 35 years his junior, and declares, I've felt neglected for so long now, but I'm beyond happy. The haters will hate, but I don't give a damn. Quite a big story, that, isn't it? Well done him. It's about time he found some happiness after being thrown under the bus by his daughter, Meghan. Sunday Express, gangs to use AI to dodge justice. Crime agencies' fears over fake videos so realistic they will fool juries. Major criminal enterprises will look to harness artificial intelligence to create false alibis and discredit judges, juries and witnesses, making it harder to convict dangerous gangsters. This startling assessment is from the National Crime Agency, Britain's FBI. The Sun on Sunday, dance show exclusive. Miranda is Strictly's #1 pick. BBC in talks with Star to be new host. Miranda Hart, star of the eponymous sitcom Miranda, is in secret talks with Strictly bosses about a sensational TV return in Claudia Winkleman's role. BBC execs believe her humour would relax the stars. A source said Miranda is a perfect fit and widely known despite not being a TV regular for 10 years. I think they're going to struggle because I think that Strictly is the tentpole show of the BBC. It's their #1 entertainment show. It is literally the crown jewel of their entertainment output. They've got to get it right. They've got a big problem that Claudia has quit. By the way, don't give me this that Claudia and Tess decided to call it a day. Tess hasn't got any other gigs. She's a very nice lady. She's a very, very nice lady. A delightful person. But I don't see any other networks queuing up for her services. Whereas you look at Winkleman, she's a real talent. She's witty, she's quirky, she's funny. She's got a personality. She's unpredictable. She can work off script. She's a very good-looking woman. I mean, I think she's marvellous. But the problem is that she's gone on to bigger and better things. I suspect that she left Strictly because she felt that it was a public relations dumpster fire, because Strictly has been beset with scandal after scandal after scandal, because the BBC don't understand governance. They couldn't run a bath. The BBC are useless. This is the same network that employed Hugh Edwards for years and years and years, whilst there were allegations from other members of staff about his behaviour, about alleged text messages, about alleged this and alleged that. And a picture emerged of an allegedly dodgy human being. Well, it proved right. He was dodgy. Hugh Edwards, by the way, quite literally a paedophile. And yet, while suspended by the BBC on full pay, £450,000 a year, you're welcome. Right, all on the watch of the BBC. We saw it with Rolf Harris. We saw it with Jimmy Savile, right? May he burn in hell. But it's amazing. There's a pattern here. Allegations of bullying on the set of Strictly. They had to put minders in for Amanda Abington. Do you know her? She's Martin Freeman's ex. Very talented actress, very nice lady. Got common sense on biology. She thinks there are two sexes, which is a view backed up by every GCSE textbook in the world and backed up by the Supreme Court. Anyway, I'm a big fan of hers. But she had such a bad experience, allegedly, reportedly, that they needed to bring minders in just to watch the rehearsals so she could be safe from her alleged bullying dance teacher who denies all the allegations. So the show's had problem after problem after problem. You've got professional dancers being sacked, even though they're very popular. And now they are without a host. And it's a massive dilemma as to which way they go. They're looking at Miranda. I mean, she's not been on telly for 10 years, probably for good reason, because she's gone off the boil. She's like Lenny Henry. She was funny in the last century. All right, you can't... I work in the world of field of comedy, folks, in the world of comedy. And, you know, if you lose the momentum, if you're not on stage every day, right, use it or lose it. And I suspect that this woman has lost a yard of pace when it comes to her comedic skills. Has been, really, I would say. So good luck with that. If they've got to dredge up someone that's not been on telly for a decade as the big new reveal. Good luck with that. Let me know who you think should be hosting Strictly. Do you even care? I don't mind talking about Strictly because I do think it's a show that's watched by millions of people, including plenty of viewers and listeners to this show. Most of the BBC output I don't talk about because you haven't watched it, because most of you don't pay the licence fee and you're enjoying other services like Netflix, you're enjoying Amazon Prime, and most importantly, you are enjoying Talk. But Miranda, is that the answer? No, they got a problem, folks. It is their flagship show, and they cannot find a host. The other person is that cheeky chappy northerner guy, Paddy McGuinness. Do me a favour. I mean, he's limped from one flop to another. He destroyed Top Gear, didn't he? So he couldn't even get into second gear on that show. The Observer, foundling, a baby girl abandoned in a country lane, decades on her search to find out why. Very sad story, that one. Sunday Mirror, PM vows to safeguard kids, will stop anti-social media. He loves banning stuff. That's what the left love to do. They're so authoritarian. Their solution is to ban stuff. Keir Starmer has declared war on social media apps that get children addicted, saying this is going to change. The Prime Minister said it was time to end algorithms designed to keep kids scrolling. Well, we've talked about this before. And in fact, we covered it in a special Dolan's Dispatch on Friday when I was in for the brilliant Ian Collins. And so many of you agreed with me that it is parents' job to decide when and when not their child looks at a mobile phone or a computer or a tablet. It's not the fault of the tech companies producing an addictive product. I think you'll find that McVitie's chocolate digestives are a touch moreish, as are Pringles, as are McDonald's cheeseburgers, and the milkshake, and the McFlurry, and the nuggets. Can you tell I'm craving a McDonald's? Let me tell you that other burger brands are available, including Burger King, where I worked at the age of 18, and I was so excited. It was my first job. And when the man said, yes, you start Monday, when I came out, I did a little hop, skip, and a jump on the street, because that is the joy of work. The work ethic. Anyway, folks, that's what he wants to do. He wants to safeguard kids by stopping anti-social media. I've got an idea. Why don't you safeguard kids by stopping the blinking boats? Because since you got into power, 70,000 illegal immigrants have entered the country. You were going to smash the gangs, which is a big lie. You didn't mean it. If you were worried about illegal immigration, you would have kept the Rwanda plan, which was working before it even started. Don't take my word for it. Ask the Irish Taoiseach, who was furious about Rwanda because all the boats were going past the UK straight to the woke Republic of Ireland. So if you want to safeguard kids, right, don't stop anti-social media, you censorious thug. Stop the blinking boats, because I think you'll find that 70,000 undocumented men pouring into the country, being given pocket money, a mobile phone and the freedom to roam the streets is pretty bad news for children. It's bad news for women, we know that. And it's bad news for children. Ask the people of Crowborough, who have lost a local army training centre which was used by cadets, to 500 undocumented men. Is that good news for children? Is that safe for children? 500 men, we don't know who they are. They chucked their documents in the sea. Some of them may have terror links. Some of them may have they won't all, of course not. But we don't know which is which. And yet Starmer is worried about TikTok and blinking YouTube. Do me a favour. Last but not least, Daily Star Sunday, golf ace Tiger Woods held in cell after crash arrest. Sorry, let me put my teeth back in. Golf ace Tiger Woods held in cell after crash arrest. Jail birdie is the rather clever headline. Golf legend Tiger Woods poses for a police mugshot after being arrested following a high-speed crash. I've got an issue here. Now, my heart goes out to somebody that may be struggling with mental health issues. He's had a gazillion operations on his back. Apparently, at certain times of the day, poor old Tiger Woods can barely move. He was breath tested. They found no alcohol. He wouldn't give a urine test, probably because there will be evidence of painkillers. Of course, that's an allegation at this stage. But he's being charged with under the influence, driving under the influence, probably of medication. But how many times has this guy flipped a car and yet he's still got a driving licence? It's a bit crazy, isn't it? I mean, imagine if he'd killed a young family when he tried to overtake another car on the road. It's not right, is it, that, of course, it's celebrities. One rule for them, another rule for the rest of us. 5:24, one of the world's leading public relations consultants, live in the studio next.
Breaking news and Talk Breakfast. Two men, aged 47 and 45, have in the last hour been arrested in connection with the Golders Green arson attack. To me, symbolising absolutely a rise in anti-Semitism. Again, nothing from the government.
Breaking news. It's just a small matter. They have just an announcement saying transgender girls, i.e. boys, they must leave girl guiding by this September the 6th.
We are buying from Norway because they fully exploit their share of the North Sea oil and gas fields, and we don't. Alice in Wonderland nuts.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to Talk Breakfast. Lovely to have your company. Welcome to the show. It is exactly 6:26, live in the studio. One of the most respected public relations consultants in the world and political commentator and broadcaster, Piers Pottinger. Good morning, Piers.
Morning, Mark.
Very good to see you. And I understand you're recovering from a little bit of a tooth procedure.
Absolutely.
Are you back to your normal self?
I am, yes. Not quite back on the toffee yet, but...
No. We're definitely going to keep the sugar away from you.
Absolutely.
So many front pages to get through.
Yeah.
The Sunday Telegraph, McSweeney told to hand over his private text. Now, this is the former Chief of Staff of the Prime Minister. The Mandelson mystery rumbles on.
Oh, yes. I mean, this does smell to high heaven, and it's very interesting that the police have reopened the investigation into the reported theft. There are questions about what he actually said about where it was stolen. Seems to have got the street wrong. They're looking for CCTV cameras. It's also now emerged that he had two other phones, which the Cabinet Office have now asked McSweeney to give them the details from his private phones.
Yeah.
I'm not sure he's actually obliged to do that. And it's also a little bit odd for the Cabinet Office to be doing this in the middle of the police investigation. So it's all very murky. It's very typical Starmer. Everything around it is a little bit iffy, and he keeps having to clarify statements which have been at the very best economical with the truth. I mean, Starmer's in such a poor position himself. I mean, he's not even regarded as a leader by his own party. Very senior Labour figures were telling me this week that Ed Miliband runs the government, not Starmer.
And is that because, notwithstanding his terrible ideas for government, that Ed Miliband is the only person that knows what to do and how to run things?
Well, he's a former leader, of course, of the party, and he's got the support of a large number of the backbench Labour MPs, which is what counts. And Starmer is just a rudderless leader. He's not actually, I don't like the word leader when you apply it to him, because he isn't a leader in any sense of the word. As I say, he doesn't even lead his own party. Now, the whole issues surrounding Morgan McSweeney, who was a protege of Lord Mandelson in the first place.
Of course.
It's going to be very interesting to see what he was saying. It's also actually, Starmer keeps going on about how process was followed. It's a wonderful phrase he loves. But in fact, this wasn't followed because the two people apparently vetting Mandelson were his communications director, Matthew Doyle, now ridiculously a peer.
Who campaigned for a paedophile to become an MP.
That's right. And Morgan McSweeney, his chief of staff. Now, normal circumstances, neither of these individuals would have any brief to conduct vetting procedures for our ambassadors. And so process wasn't followed. Now, what's coming up now is his other murky national security advisor, a man for the first time in that role who isn't a civil servant and therefore not accountable, Jonathan Powell. It now emerges that his company that he works for and which he's about to return to, it is said by The Guardian, and they would probably know from him, his company's been paid over £1 million of taxpayers' money involving the discussions about the return of the Chagos.
Wow.
And I mean, Jonathan Powell, who has never faced the Parliamentary Security Committee because he doesn't have to, as he's not a civil servant, is a man who is twice in the last 6 months had a private visit to China with the Chinese foreign minister. Now, this is a man who isn't in the cabinet, who went, it would appear, without any cabinet minister to see the foreign minister of the most powerful, one of the most powerful nations in the world, for secret talks. Not once, twice in 6 months. I would ask the question, what is Jonathan Powell doing, and what is his brief? Does he have a mandate, or is he just allowed to roam the world, behaving as he would like, and trousering, or his company, Intermediate, as it's called? It's also one of those companies that's also a charity. The murkiness just goes on and on.
Most definitely. And I think that the government have lost the dressing room, and the Prime Minister's reputation is shot.
Yes.
And his authority's gone.
Yes, I mean, domestically and internationally, he is not seen as a leader. He is spineless. He has no power. No one takes him seriously. If they object, he immediately does a U-turn. He's got no vision, no principles. And if you look back, there was a thing during the week in one of the newspapers showing the number of times he talks about his first priority. And it's varied every time. And every time he's talked about his first priority, nothing has actually been done about it in 2 years. I mean, the man is incorrigible. And he also seems, I think, to be living in a fantasy land. I really do believe he doesn't understand that there is no connection between what he says is happening in the country and what actually is.
What actually is.
I mean, the only growth there is in payments to people on welfare. There's no growth in the economy at all. And then he's now talking about, I mean, I think the worst thing this week was the idea he's going to make Sadiq Khan a peer. And most people would like him to disappear. I mean, you know, Londoners have had enough of Sadiq Khan. I mean, we can hardly get across the river in London because all the bridges are decaying and he can't fix them, apparently. The man is anti-British, and absolutely shockingly, when those dreadful ambulances were set on fire, when the health secretary, when all these people appeared at the scene the next morning for a press conference, where was the mayor and joint Metropolitan Police Commissioner, Sadiq Khan? Nowhere to be seen. Shocking, outrageous and unforgivable.
Well, I'm fascinated by your remarks about how you've spoken to Labour insiders who say that it's Miliband that's running the government, not Starmer, which is a really devastating new development and quite a scoop for us on the show to hear that. What about this from the Sunday Times? Cabinet ministers and number 10 advisors are struggling to be loyal to the Prime Minister. He is, said one influential aide on their departure from Downing Street, the least, this is Starmer, he is the least intellectually curious person I've ever met. Another politician upon whom Starmer relied heavily said he can only prepare by reading briefing books for hours on end. He doesn't brainstorm. He has no fixed views on anything. There's no clarity because there's no belief. There's no belief because there's no understanding. There's no understanding because there's no curiosity. A senior civil servant tells the Sunday Times Sir Keir Starmer is not a compassionate man. He's careless about people around him. It's just not warm. He just doesn't think very hard about other people. Another close advisor said, I don't think he has a theory of power. I don't think he's ever sat down, read any history, or has any idea of how power works. I just don't think he would be attracted to the kind of historical figures who got stuff done. This is damning.
Oh, of course it is. But I mean, it shows he obviously doesn't study history, because if he did, he'd realise socialism never works.
Who knew? Well, listen, folks, I don't know what we've got here. Starmerism might be even worse than that. Next up, Starmer opens the floodgates to mass immigration. You won't believe this story, folks. It's the mother of all U-turns, and it will cost us $250 billion. That's next.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
It is 5:38. You are listening to Talk Breakfast. No, it's not. It is 6:38. Can we throw away that clock? We've got a clock in the studio that I'm afraid to say is not accurate, but we are the home of the facts, the home of the truth. It is 6:38. We lost an hour's sleep, but lovely to have your company with us, and a very, very busy show to come. So much more to get through. Tony in Essex has messaged the show. Good morning, Mark. Nothing in particular from me today, except thank goodness for Talk. It helps to keep us going and remain relatively sane. Keep going, Talk, and with all the same presenters, especially you, Mark. Tony, thank you for that. You're very, very kind. What about this? Great show, as always, Mark, and an hour earlier this morning to boot. So on the burning Strictly question, I'd go for two former Strictly contestants. Zoe Ball in for Tess Daly. Zoe already very overpaid by the BBC, so she can earn her corn by doing a proper shift as the lead. And I'd go for Lav Wux, hilarious and funny impersonator on the last series, who can do the Claudia thing and satisfy the BBC wokerati trans lobby. Sharon says, good morning, Mark. I was thinking it's going to be Holly Willoughby for Strictly, I reckon, and maybe Fern Cotton to bring some Angelism back. Interesting stuff. Listen, I'll get to more of your messages very shortly. But what about this as an exclusive in the Mirror newspaper, Piers Possenger? Keir Starmer has hinted that Labour may well row back on proposed immigration reforms, which triggered a backlash from his own MPs. As he said, Labour had progressive answers for voters. So what it looks like is going to happen. The one good policy of this government came from the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood. Yep. And this was to double the length of time you had to wait before receiving indefinite leave to remain from 5 years to 10 years, plus stricter conditions such as needing to speak the language to a high standard, not having a criminal record and having a decent income. All a welcome development from this Labour government, likely to be reversed by Sir Keir Starmer.
Completely, and very typical of him. What's happened, this is a purely political move. He is now so desperate for Muslim votes, as was shown by the recent by-election. And as they tend to be now moving to the Green Party, Starmer's looking politically very, very... He's very worried, both at the attack on the left from the Greens and from the right from Reform. So he's hit on all sides. The one decent thing that has come out of this government has been Shabana Mahmood's immigration new proposals, which made an awful lot of sense to most rational people. However, his left-wing MPs, who are beholden to Muslim constituents, who want to bring more of their families in and flood the country even more than it already is, they are trying to get him to water this down. And he, of course, as a man with absolutely no backbone at all, is going to give in. Otherwise, they'll threaten him with some sort of revolt over a vote or goodness knows what. I mean, a lot of this is anyway, and he's trying to do this before the local elections in order to show, again, purely for political manoeuvring.
Red meat to the left, red meat to the Green Party
That's
supporters.
What he's trying to do. And it's not going to work, because he's going to get, and his party, wiped out at the local election.
And this is what mystifies me about the left. I need your help, Piers Pottinger, a man of your capacious experience, knowledge and intelligence. Why the left are so contemptful of the poor of this country and of the working class? Because to grant indefinite leave to remain to 2.6 million people, mostly from the third world as part of the Boris wave, to grant them indefinite leave to remain comes with a bill in the long term of £250 billion. And the left don't understand, they can't join the dots that this is really bad news for the poor of this country, because there will be further competition for resources and it's a race to the bottom economically.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, I mean, what the Labour Party and the Greens want is as many people as possible not working. And actually, the Labour Party is achieving that if you look at all the figures.
Yeah.
And they want as many people on benefits as possible, so they feel they're beholden to the government. That's how they operate. That's where their currency is, from people beholden to the government for their money, and of course they not having to work is a real bonus. And it's shocking. If you look at the Green Party policies, for example, they're all absolute lunacy. And they also show that all the MPs are hypocrites, because the first thing in their manifesto is the immediate abolition of the monarchy.
Yeah.
And yet all their MPs have to swear an oath of allegiance to the king in order to sit in Parliament. So how do they reconcile these two ends of the spectrum? Of course, it shows what complete lunatics. I call the Green Party the larger monster raving loony party.
Do we have to be careful what we wish for if Labour are obliterated in the May elections and gradually over time the Greens become the main party of the left?
Yes, I think they're the biggest danger at the moment in this country, and that's saying something, because Labour are pretty dangerous, but the Greens are even more dangerous. I mean, if you look at their lunatic leader, who isn't, of course, an MP even, but is getting huge mileage. I mean, the mainstream media are all over this lunatic, giving him endless airtime for his mad ideas. The country would be bust overnight. There'd be criminals roaming freely. The floodgates would be open.
We want migrants welcome.
Anyone welcome. All drugs legalised. Free for all everywhere. It's anarchy they are talking about. Now, this is really dangerous. How any intelligent person could possibly vote for the Green Party, who incidentally seem to have forgotten rather a lot about the green elements of their policies. They are second rate. They are an extreme left party who's got unfortunately a leader who seems to be quite good at communicating and comes across far better than his ludicrous policies. But he's a very dangerous man. And of course the other party in all of this that is suffering the most from this is the Lib Dems, who've 72 seats and are going to get also wiped out by the Greens in a general election, because the Greens are taking their ground. And Ed Davey has failed completely to build on what was a good election result for him last time. And if I was a member of the Lib Dems, I'd be pretty fed up with the way he was not running the party and just resorting to stupid fairground stunts.
Most definitely, I completely agree. Sharon has messaged the show at 6:45 a.m. It's about time Tiger Woods went to prison. What does it take? Maybe he's got to kill someone before he is jailed. I cannot stand the man. JB in Aberdeenshire says, good morning, Mark. New host of Strictly should be Rachel Reeves. Don't forget that she's an experienced ballroom dancer and quick step champion 3 years running, at the same time that she was working at the Bank of England. Just brilliant. We love your texts. Keep them coming. Folks, what do you think about this? Could Labour break Britain? Can we survive 3 years of this Labour government? 0344 499 1000. More to come. More front pages. 6:46. This is Talk Breakfast.
morning to you. This is Tour the Home of Common Sense with me, Julia Hartley-Brewer. Just breaking news in the last couple of moments. Extraordinary news. Not just that the police have arrived at the Sandringham estate where Prince Andrew, as was now Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, is currently living since being thrown out of the Windsor estate. The police have arrested Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. It's an extraordinary revelation. And certainly what's been contained in the Epstein files as released in the last few weeks. It's his 66th birthday today. What a birthday present that is.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
6:49 Talk Breakfast, a very busy couple of hours to come. More bad headlines for Andrew Mountbatten Windsor as the FBI are reportedly investigating the former Duke of York over claims that he sought young girls for sex during a taxpayer-funded royal tour. Agents in the US have been looking into the former prince's involvement in Ghislaine Maxwell's sex trafficking ring, according to newly unearthed documents, and it may explain why Andrew has not been to the United States for several years. Well, this is an exclusive from The Sun on Sunday. Let's get reaction from world-renowned public relations expert and broadcaster Piers Pottinger. Well, Piers, more bad headlines for Andrew, which means more bad headlines for the King.
I'm afraid so. It must be very distressing for the King, and I think most people in the country would have great sympathy for him. Particularly going through his cancer treatment at this time as well. But I do feel, again, that this has emerged as a result of going through in more detail the endless Epstein documents that are released piecemeal by the Americans. And the FBI, when they say they're investigating, they're not actually, because this was happened many years ago. What are they investigating, and what are they going to do at the end of their investigation? I don't see anything happening there. And unfortunately, I really think it's about time someone criticised the appalling mess the whole Epstein affair has become, because the Americans have handled it so badly. Absolutely, on every level, it has been handled incredibly badly. First of all, Epstein, of course, they managed to arrest him and allow him to kill himself or be killed. We don't know.
Many believe that he was murdered.
Many do. Then we have this ludicrous open-ended congressional inquiry investigation into anything connected with Epstein. It's open-ended. There's no time frame on it. There's no... they can't subpoena people outside the US.
Their judgment and verdict has no legal implications.
And it's turned into a Democrat versus Republican political, because there's Clinton involved, there's Trump involved, so they're all fighting each other on that. Then the so-called Department of Justice, one of the most laughable organizations in the world, has been leaking or dishing out these papers, millions of them, which I don't understand why. Scraps of paper with scribbles on, all kinds of stuff is being spewed out by these people. Why spew them out? They haven't arrested people. The only person they arrested outside Epstein was Ghislaine and Maxwell. And so and the only other person who suffered, other than Andrew, is Mandelson. There's a common thread there. They're all British people. Ghislaine Maxwell has claimed that at least 27 men in America have done a deal with the DOJ to have their names redacted and not be prosecuted. Now, if that's true, that's another terrible indictment of this ludicrous investigation that has been mishandled from day one. I would like to think still that if a similar person existed in this country, which God forbid they do, our investigative authorities would have handled this much better.
If the bad headlines keep coming and if the police investigations on either side of the pond ramp up, it's not inconceivable that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor could die in jail.
Well, first of all, I don't think he'll go to America, and why should he, if all they're going to do is prosecute him and vilify him? It's also not quite clear what they can or cannot prosecute him for, by the way. His whole life is over anyway. He's been exposed in all kinds of ways as a pretty appalling individual, and it's over for him.
Yeah, the only thing he could, I guess, hope to do is become one of the hosts of Strictly, is about it.
Well,
he may consider that a little embarrassing, actually. And he'll think, oh, I'm not going to do that because that will completely finish me off reputation-wise.
Well, I would advise him strongly not to go on Dancing on Ice, because they might make the ice rather thin and you might come to a rather terrible end, yes. But on a serious note, I mean, if the investigation does develop into trafficking, and if there is proof that he was in any way involved, and it took place in Britain and underage,
and they're looking at corruption as well.
Well, they might be able to throw stuff at him there.
Could Andrew be jailed? Is it conceivable that the King's brother goes to jail, the man that was once Queen Elizabeth's favourite son?
If he's done anything criminal, then he should go to jail.
And what are the implications for the royal family if Andrew is jailed?
They're very dire indeed, and it will damage the royal family immeasurably. And I think it will be very hard for them to recover from
Well, if Andrew went to jail, he would be accommodated at His Majesty's pleasure. The irony is, quite full on.
Well, he might choose in that case to put him up somewhere different from HM Prison Wandsworth,
Is it appropriate that the King is accommodating Andrew rent-free on the Sandringham estate, which is the private estate of the royal family in Norfolk?
Yes, he's got to live somewhere, and it's fine. I mean, he's virtually a prisoner. He can't move, he can't do anything, he can't be seen. I mean, the man is effectively under house arrest. And he will be for the rest of his life.
Andrew is under house arrest, effectively.
Yeah, that's effectively what it is.
Well, he's in an open prison.
Yeah, that's what it really is.
What would you say to some of my viewers and listeners who think, especially maybe older retired viewers and listeners, who think, well, I would take that prison because it sounds pretty guilt-edged to me?
Sure, of course. But don't forget, he has yet to be charged with any offence, and he hasn't been proven to be a criminal under the law. So until that happens, he's already serving a kind of suspended sentence, and one will have to wait and see what comes up. Incidentally, the corruption and the business side of things are very different, because although he was a trade envoy, for Her Majesty, the Queen, he wasn't actually a trade envoy as a civil servant. Yeah. And that may come to save his neck if, as I'm sure, well, I'm not sure, but I fear there'll be some very unsavoury elements will emerge about his business dealings.
Do you have any sympathy at all for Andrew Mountbatten Windsor? For example, some might take the view he's been subjected to trial by media.
I don't, because I think a lot of this he brought on himself.
And you know Andrew.
I do. And he did bring this on himself a great deal. And I think particularly some of the people around him who must be very nervous, those involved in Pitch at the Palace, will be, and the relationship with the Chinese government will be very concerned. But then again, there seemed to be one rule for some people with the Chinese government and one for others. Yes. As I mentioned earlier in your programme, Jonathan Powell, the National Security Advisor, seems free to go and visit and have formal meetings with the Foreign Minister of China These were secret meetings exposed by a newspaper. I mean, the government weren't even prepared to admit this.
No, most
Shocking.
definitely. Well, it is shocking. How do you think the King feels every day when he wakes up to these headlines?
Dismayed.
Yeah.
Dismayed.
Because he's trying to be the leader of the country, our head of state and Commonwealth. He's trying to have a good reign as king and wants a great legacy, and yet it looks like it's going to be adulterated by two big stories: his runaway son Harry and his ne'er-do-well brother Andrew.
Absolutely. And Harry, I mean, in one of the papers today, has said, he'd bring the children over if invited by his father. Why is he doing this, in airing these views in public? On the one hand, he attacks the press for invading his privacy. On the other hand, he uses the press to wash his family dirty washing in public.
Yeah.
It's absolutely unforgivable. And Harry, I think, is going to come in for a very big shock at the end of his current massive legal case going on. And all the signs are that I think he's going to be the very big and expensive loser in the whole case.
My goodness, that's another developing story that we're going to watch closely.
Very close,
So
coming to the
much.
end.
Well, I'm delighted to say Piers Pottinger is staying with us. Joining us live in the studio is also the editor-at-large of The Mail on Sunday, the brilliant Charlotte Griffiths. So much to come. But what do you think about this? Labour are predicted to open the floodgates to mass immigration by reversing controls on indefinite leave to remain. This is red meat to the left of the party. What are the implications? Well, one of those implications is a bill of £250 billion. More to come. This is Talk Breakfast.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
7:03 a.m. Do not adjust your set. I'm afraid we've lost an hour of sleep, but my goodness, we've got a big show for you this morning. You are listening to Talk Breakfast. Happy Sunday, one and all. Mark Dolan with you until 10 a.m. Breaking this morning, Starmer opens the floodgates to mass immigration as the Prime Minister plans to row back on planned tightening of rules around indefinite leave to remain. The big problem is it comes with a bill of £250 billion if we settle the so-called Boris wave. So I've got a simple question for you at 7:03 on a Sunday morning. Will Labour break Britain? We've got open borders, we've got the illegal channel crossings, we've got net zero, we've got an economy on its knees. Will Labour break Britain? 03444991000. Tommy's on the phones today. Text the word talk in your message to 87222. Or leave us a voice note, and as the saying goes, let's talk. In a special Dolan's Dispatch at 9 a.m, I'll be dealing with the woke chairman of Ipswich Town Football Club, who has tearfully apologised for a visit from Nigel Farage to the stadium. What are these people going to do when Farage wins the next general election? Now, you can hear the show on DAB Plus in app and online, or you can watch us. Just head to YouTube, search Talk, and up we pop. So much to get through. By the way, the BBC are looking for new hosts for Strictly. Any recommendations, please? Text the word talk in your message to 87222. Who would you like to see doing the big job? Great suggestion from Tim, who says, good morning, Mark. I'm Tim in Mansfield here. How about Jim Davidson to host Strictly? That would bring some life back into the show. What a great idea. Your nominations for Strictly host, so much to get through. Let's dance our way through the next 3 hours. And we kick off this hour with today's front pages. Let's start with the Sunday Telegraph. McSweeney told to hand over his private texts. Of course, the Peter Mandelson row rumbles on, and the mystery around the circumstances of his appointment continue. Relevant messages on second phone will be part of an inquiry into the Mandelson scandal. This is a story that won't go away. It's more bad headlines for the Prime Minister and reflects quite badly on his judgment. US Marines head to war as Israel says Houthis will pay for their latest attack. And how about this? I mean, we could have predicted it as night follows day. The EU plots to plunder Chagos fishing grounds after PM's surrender. The Mail on Sunday, Middle East nightmare, 70 Britons arrested in the UAE simply for taking war photos, and an exclusive in the paper. Meghan's dad, Thomas Markle Sr., I found love again at 81. Sunday Express. Gangs to use AI to dodge justice. Crime agencies' fears over fake videos so realistic they will fool juries. The Sun on Sunday, dance show exclusive. Miranda is Strictly's #1 pick. BBC star in talks to be the new host of the show. I think that's a problem, given the fact that Miranda Hart, notwithstanding that she's a talented lady, and I know her, she's a nice lady, she's barely been on the box for 10 years. So if that's the best that the BBC have got, then be afraid. Be very afraid. They've got to get this right, because it's one of the few shows that works on the BBC. You've got the Traitors and Strictly, and that's about it, folks. Daily Star Sunday, golf ace Tiger Woods held in cell after crash arrest. Jail birdie. Here's my question about old Tiger Woods. How many times has he got to crash a car before he loses his licence? How many times has he got to crash a car and nearly kill a family before the guy goes to jail? I think it's an outrage. And the Observer, foundling, a baby girl abandoned in a country lane, decades on, the search to find out why. So much to get through. Live in the studio, two of my favourite broadcasters. We have the editor-at-large of the Mail on Sunday, the brilliant Charlotte Griffiths. Good morning, Charlotte.
Good morning.
Great to see you. Looking, I've got to say, bright-eyed and quite literally bushy-tailed.
Oh, that's very flattering. I don't know about that. I think the extra hour, or the lack of the hour, has really got to me today, to be honest. But I'm glad I don't look like that.
Well, I think, can I just say that I actually, I blame Sir Keir Starmer for this losing an hour. And Rachel Reeves, I think it was that second budget that really did for it.
Yeah, I like to blame them both for everything that involves me not having any sleep.
The great advantage is it will be sunny and bright at 5 and then 6 p.m. this evening, and we can start to think about summer. Speaking of summer, pouring sunshine into the studio is one of the world's most respected public relations experts, Piers Pottinger. Piers, lovely to see you too.
Mark, good to see you.
Fresh from dental treatment.
Yes, absolutely.
Are you willing to share with my audience the outrage that you've had to pay for this, even though you've been a generous beneficiary to the taxpayer for decades, that when you get a root canal, you've got to write a cheque? I don't understand it.
Yeah, well, it's sort of specialised work. And because it's also, I was in such agony, it needed to be done. I couldn't go on a West Streeting waiting list for a couple of years.
No.
Anyway, yes, it was all very painful, but I'm glad it's over. But I'm still a long way off from visiting Harrogate to buy some nice toffee.
Yeah, I think you are. You've got to stay away from the sugary treats for a little while. Let me tell you, you've got a Hollywood smile and it works for me. Let's get to this massive story. It's a big developing story. It's a major political story of the day, Charlotte. And it's regarding indefinite leave to remain. Now, this is the so-called Boris wave. In the region of 2.6 million people who came to the UK from 2021 onwards, and of course it's 26 now, so even a basic mathematician will tell you that they begin to qualify for indefinite leave to remain. And in the next few years it's going to be several million people. A recent study has suggested that if all of the Boris wave settle, then the cost in the long term will be £250 billion. And the reason why is because these folk, there's nothing wrong with them, of course, they've come here for a better life. Many of them will be in low-skilled work, apparently to plug a skills gap. Care homes, fruit pickers, NHS, you name it. The problem is these people, if they work, which is not guaranteed, will require in-work benefits for the rest of their lives, plus NHS services, school places. And the bill is reported to be £250 billion. But Starmer looks like he's going to row back on Shabana Mahmood's sensible plan to double the length of time you have to wait. What's your reaction?
I don't really understand why he employs Shabana Mahmood, because the whole point of her is to have firm opinions and to make the government look like they're taking strong action on things, which is what the middle class, I think, want to hear.
Yes.
But now he's saying, no, the middle class want us to water it down. I mean, he's literally said, I think they want clear rules, but they also want compassionate and fair rules. But you've just got to ask, who's it fair on? Clearly not the taxpayer, I don't think. And it's just another example of watering down, just when he's hired someone to look decisive and look like she's taking decisive action to please those people who are worried about how often he U-turns.
Yes, and I'm not going to, and you wouldn't choose to do the same thing, demonise the 2.6 million people who were part of the Boris wave. They were encouraged to come here by, in my view, woke Home Office officials who thought that mass immigration is good for the economy. Well, all it does is cooks the books and you get a temporary bump in GDP, but not per citizen, only the big figure. But there's the back-end cost. So the reason why we need people to work in care homes is because the work is not correctly remunerated. But instead we've gone for this Ponzi scheme of bringing people over who will spend the rest of their lives here and will be a net cost to every citizen. I mean, this is like mortgaging the future. This feels to me like a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah, I know what you mean. That's probably very apt.
I mean,
for Boris
it's a
Johnson.
concern. It won't affect us. It's a concern for our kids and our grandkids.
Yeah, definitely, and certainly our kids who are already struggling with schools that are overcrowded and, you know, obviously NHS waiting lists. Yeah, they'll be paying the price. Like with so many things, like the environment and all sorts of things, our children will be paying the price.
It's very true. I mean, this is my problem, Piers, is that Shabana Mahmood, you know, when I'm doing this show, if the Labour government do good things, I will celebrate that.
Yeah.
We're not an echo chamber here. We're not tribal.
No.
I mean, if Keir Starmer unilaterally stopped the boats, I'd be like, brilliant, you know. But it ain't happening.
But we're just about to hand the French another £500 million
to try to stop
but
boats.
they haven't actually come to any agreement yet. This is another series of talks that are actually, it's very quietly, they haven't, the government are terrified that this is going to be focused on at the moment. Luckily, the other things going on in the world mean that people aren't focusing on the negotiations with the French that are not actually concluded. So having already paid them 500 million, we're about to give them another 500 million for another 3 years, and yet they're not agreeing to almost everything we're asking. So that's a big problem for Shabana Mahmood, who, I mean, you know, she's tried to do the right thing, and here yet again is an example of Starmer, spineless, no idea how to lead. He doesn't care about this country, and in 5 years' time, all he'll be doing is, as a highly paid consultant to some European Court of Human Rights, rubbing his hands and trousering lots of money. He doesn't give a damn about this
that's
country.
right. This indefinitely to remain U-turn. So Shabana Mahmood wants people to wait 10 years before they can settle, rather than 5. And she's attached some very worthy terms and conditions, including the ability to speak English to a high standard, the absence of a criminal record, and evidence of a respectable income. And she had another brilliant idea, which is properly right-wing, which is that if you're a high earner, then you jump the queue and you settle sooner. If you're a millionaire that's an investor in the country, she's like, you're in quicker. This makes common sense. The problem is the left of the party don't like it, those flocking to the Greens don't like it, and Starmer has buckled.
Well, what she's doing is trying, as you quite rightly point out, to get people who are going to come in and contribute to the economy rather than take all our taxpayers' money off us. And, you know, she is doing the right things here, but it shows that Starmer has no control. Rather than stand up and support her, what he's done is give in to his left-wing backbench MPs who don't like it. As I said earlier on your programme today, I mean, he is beholden and terrified of the Muslim voters now in some of his key constituencies. And because they are now waking up to the fact that there's an alternative for them and increasingly showing support for the Green Party, which is total lunacy, but they are nevertheless supporting the Greens. Starmer is terrified of this, so he's giving in everywhere. He, you know, if anyone has a problem with Starmer, they go to him and say, I'm not happy, you've got to stop this. He'll do a U-turn. He's done 16 already. And I'm sure this will be another one.
And what about this? Pressure from the Greens and Reform. The Prime Minister, Charlotte, is fighting a war on 2 fronts. According to our colleague Steve Swinford at the Times newspaper, Labour's internal MRP polling is said to be apoplectic. Yeah, but it says here apocalyptic.
Oh, well, it could be both.
It's a bit of both, isn't it? One of the A words. Apocalyptic. I'll get there in the end. Basically, game over in the capital and beyond. Labour, Charlotte, is on course to lose every one of the 50 seats it holds in Sunderland, home to Bridget Phillipson, the Education Secretary, and those votes are going to go to Reform in the North East. Meanwhile, London looks like it's going to be lost to the Greens. If the Greens replace Labour as the dominant party of the left, is that a problem?
Yeah, I think so. I think Zach Polanski, you know, I mean, he's just mad, basically. He says such crazy things, and to think that he's taken so much of the Labour vote, and what really made my heart sink about this article was Keir Starmer says we need to make our case more powerfully to those people, to those Green voters, and I just thought, oh God, my heart sinks, because just saying the same thing over and over again more powerfully, and he says give them a better account of what we've done. You know, Keir Starmer says that he's always giving us an account of what we've done or what he's done. But we're just not buying it, you know? And that's why people are switching over to the Greens, even though some of those policies are mad.
Can I give you the nightmare scenario, Charlotte, which is, and I know, you know, let's put it on record, you're not a frothing right-winger or anything like that. You're not politically tribal. I'm one of these centre ground people he's trying to get. I'm a centrist dad. You are, with a bit of common sense. And the concern, the worry, I think, is at the next election that there's a concerted effort to prevent Reform from winning the election, to keep Farage out of number 10, a hellish rainbow coalition made up of Labour, the Greens, the Lib Dems and the SNP. And I just worry about the future for the country. I mean, this morning I'm asking my audience, will Labour break Britain? Because they're most likely going to cling to power for 3 years. The direction of travel is not good. Illegal immigration remains unchecked. Now we're looking at the spectre of mass migration with the indefinite leave to remain U-turn. We're doubling down on net zero during an energy crisis. And we've got zero growth in the economy. It was literally a big fat zero in January.
The scenario you've just described at our next election is why, on the right side of the equation, the Conservatives and Reform will have to do some kind of deal. Because strategic voting, tactical voting will come in, as you've said.
The left will be very organised.
They'll do that.
And the Lib Dems are already experts at tactical voting.
They love it.
It's in their DNA.
And the reason Ed Davey is being so nice to Starmer in the House all the time is because he's hoping for a coalition and him coming back into government, God forbid. Don't forget, he was the postmaster, the minister for the post office, who sent all those postmasters to prison.
He was also...
And he hasn't apologised for it properly yet.
He was also the minister responsible for cancelling nuclear projects. And Nick Clegg made a speech saying the problem with nuclear is if we do it, it's expensive and it won't come online until 2021. Well, we bite your hand off for that nuclear capacity now.
No, exactly. But the point is that Kemi Badenoch and Nigel Farage are going to have to come to some agreement, may not merge the two parties, but agree at least which seats to fight and which not, so that they can maximise the support from the right. Otherwise, we could end up with the worst of all worlds. And can you imagine Zach Polanski as a Minister of State in His Majesty's government?
Well, this is a guy that wants to go and have a coffee with Vladimir Putin and convince him to disarm.
Yes.
Good luck with that.
Oh, God, good luck with that.
He's a guy who makes Harry Hill look totally sensible.
Also, if you look at Ed Miliband and how Keir Starmer buckles to Ed Miliband every 5 minutes, imagine what he'd do if Zach Polanski was his unofficial boss, bossing him around behind the scenes. He'd buckle at every opportunity.
Well, maybe Zelensky could hypnotise him.
I said maybe he already has.
That's it, once he's taken care of Mrs. Starmer. Charlotte, can I ask you about what you think about in terms of if the left work together in an effort to keep Farage out of number 10, do the right need to unite?
I think they do. Will
it happen?
I don't think it'll happen. I just at the moment...
Farage hates the Tories, doesn't he?
He hates the Tories so much. But as you say, if they kind of work together rather than uniting to form one party, that's more likely, because obviously they both would agree on fighting different constituencies. I think they would do that. But that's as far as they go. But maybe they should just, or maybe their plan is to, when it gets a bit closer to the actual election, just kind of throw in the towel and just combine if they need to, if it gets to that stage.
It's a possibility, because it does look like Reform has peaked at the moment.
Most definitely.
And I think that Farage may have made a big mistake taking on board so many ex-Tory cabinet ministers who are associated with failure.
Perhaps. If he's peaked now, and in a couple of years' time he's right at a low ebb at the bottom, he'll stop being so firm about his stance of not joining the Conservatives. And then if Kemi's still there, would she let him kind of come crawling back? I don't know.
Well, I think he will be the party of strength in the discussions.
He'll be the boss, won't he?
I mean,
he'll be the kingmaker.
He's got the membership. He's got the numbers. And the Conservatives and the Conservatives, as well as Labour, in the upcoming elections, are going to be wiped out. I mean, they're going to suffer hugely. And the Labour, this is the only relief for Starmer in the May elections, will be to be able to say, well, look at the Conservatives, they've been wiped out as well. And he will do that, of course, because that's his only defence, is to attack the Conservatives. I mean, he does it in the House the whole time, or anyone asks him a question and all he does is attack the previous government. It shows you how completely lost and broken he is.
I mean, Charlotte, the Conservatives have recently come up with some good ideas, in my view, such as scrapping stamp duty altogether, which surprised even Reform UK, scrapping the ECHR, a robust position on immigration. I think they're actually aiming, it's quite underreported, for net zero immigration. That's the Tories. And of course, Kemi Badenoch has been a commanding figure at Prime Minister's questions. I think she's found her political voice. She looks comfortable in her own skin. She's robustly conservative. She's taken the party and shifted it rightwards. But no one's listening.
I know it's a shame. I think she is robust, and I think she's doing a great job at the moment. I do actually think it's quite nice watching her trajectory as she kind of gets better and better and more robust. But nobody cares that the damage is still done. But maybe if she just stays firm for another 3 years, our short memories, will slightly forget the damage done by the Tories, and people will start to forgive her and listen a little bit more.
Now, I've got lots of viewers and listeners who see Nigel as our only hope and love reform. But I just wonder, if I look at somebody like you that's in the middle, is there an argument that a reform Tory coalition is the best of both worlds?
I think so. I do think so. I think centrist dads like me would probably tolerate.
Is that how you identify now?
Yeah, I think it is.
Have your pronouns changed?
Oh yeah, I'm centrist dad.
It's good though. Now that you're a man, you get actually paid more than women, so that's good news.
Oh, that would be nice. Oh, I love being on the side of the patriarchy.
More career opportunities.
And but yet I'm still a feminist, which is why I slightly back Kemi, because I do want her to succeed. I think she's. But yes, I think centrist dads like me wouldn't vote for Farage unless he was attached to Kemi or the Conservatives. I think it's easier to swallow that way. The Farage ticket.
What puts you off Farage as a centrist dad?
I just think, to be honest, I think it is his hiring of dodgy Conservatives, ex-Conservatives, just this fear that he hasn't really come up with any policies yet, but he may well do in time. And I suppose that, the Conservatives, they're just an established party for hundreds of years, and there are a few people out there like me who are just, I just think reform's too new, too inconsistent, possibly.
Briefly, Piers, you're a public relations expert. Farage is ahead in the polls. I've got to say, a huge chunk of my audience love Nigel.
Absolutely.
They feel that he understands the problems of the country.
Yeah, he's the best political communicator in the land.
There you go.
No question. The problem with Kemi is, as Charlotte said, she's brilliant. She's got much better in the House, and she's very good at Prime Minister's question time. The trouble is, outside there, she's not resonating with the electorate.
And there's no point smashing it at Prime Minister's questions, because most of the country don't watch it.
That's right. And she needs to be out and about more in a planned and clever way. They're not communicating well. If I compare the communications I get from Reform to the communications I get from Conservatives, the Reform are miles ahead in terms of their quality, their targeting, the usefulness of the information. The Conservatives, nowhere.
Interesting, damning. Briefly, I just wonder whether Kemi's brand at the next election could be sensible mum. In other words, Starmer's behaving like a little, naughty little boy. Old Farage, on the naughty step as well. And Kemi comes in, sensible mum. I'll knock heads together. I'll sort this out.
Well, she also needs a dynamic dad or uncle around her, a sensible mum, and that's also what she lacks. Can you name the shadow front bench?
Really true.
No, you can't.
No, and they're all the people that were quite happy with the Boris wave, with signing up for net zero, and with, in my humble opinion, the COVID overreaction.
Given what's happening in the country at the moment, the complacency of most of the Conservative front bench spokesman is shockingly poor.
I don't think she needs a sensible dad, by the way. I'd just like to interject. I think sensible mum, as a sensible mum
Don't you think that's a strong brand for her, sensible mum?
I think it's a great brand. I think you've come up with a genius idea, and I don't see why she has to have a centrist dad by her side. In fact, as a parent myself, parenting's often made worse when the dad's around. You can just get on with it if you're a sensible mum on your own.
I can't disagree with it. One of my wife's favourite things about this new job of mine is I'm out the house first thing in the morning.
Ideal.
So she can do a proper job and reverse the damage that I've done as well. Two beautiful children. Listen, folks, so much to get through. My thanks to Piers Pottinger, one of the most respected public relations figures in the world. The editor-at-large at the Mail on Sunday is Charlotte Griffiths. She's staying with us. And I've got a simple question for you this morning. They've got another 3 years to go. Will Labour break Britain? 0344 499 1000. Talk Breakfast, 7:27.
The world is on fire. Russia, Iran, China, conflicts brewing in all of their different regions. They're not waiting. But here in Britain, our armed forces are underfunded, they're undermanned, and they're underprepared. And nobody in government wants to talk about it. Well, we do. I'm Philip Ingram, and I spent my career in the world of intelligence, military planning, strategic planning, and unfortunately, conflict. This is Talk War, and this is where we analyse the conflicts shaping our world.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to Talk Breakfast. It is 7:30. So many big stories to get through. Front page of the Mail on Sunday. Middle East nightmare. 70 Britons arrested in UAE simply for taking war photos. Well, as luck would have it, the editor-at-large of the Mail on Sunday is Charlotte Griffiths, and she's with me live in the studio. I'm delighted to say we're bringing in some refreshments here. By the way, folks, let me remind you that it is 7:30. It's not 6:30. What I need you to do now is go and change your watch, change the clocks. I know that your phone will automatically update, but it is 7:30. We've lost an hour's sleep, but my goodness, we're coming in hot today. So the editor-at-large of the Mail on Sunday is Charlotte Griffiths. And Charlotte, 70 Britons arrested in the UAE simply for taking war photos. We're seeing a very different side to life in Dubai at the moment, aren't we?
Yeah, I think this is really, really damaging for Dubai's reputation, because they have already had their reputation as the safest place in the world shattered. But now we're starting to see what it's really like, the underbelly of Dubai.
Yeah.
Something that's quite easy to ignore when you're there. You think, oh, they say it's draconian, but I'm looking around, I'm wearing a sort of shoulderless garment on a rooftop having a cocktail. It's not really that draconian. But something like this happens and you realise underneath it all, it is very, very strict. They're taking away passports, imprisoning people, cancelling visas, just for kind of looking out of your window and taking a picture of a drone landing in your neighbour's back garden in a swimming pool. You know, it's quite terrifying, really.
The regime has, beneath the kind of, flown-in sushi and the air-conditioned five-star hotels, underneath that is a sort of medieval regime, really.
Yes, and that's what this is exposed, and that's what's so terrifying. And I do know sometimes when you drive through Dubai and you see the workers building these buildings in the unbelievable heat, being bussed in these really shabby buses, and you think there's something very wrong here. But unfortunately, it's so distracting, Dubai, that I think people they look away. And what this has done is made us look head on at Dubai and think, it is a very strict regime, maybe not the paradise we all thought it was. And I think this is going to be more damaging for Dubai than the drones hitting various skyscrapers, because that can, when the war passes, and hopefully it will soon, Dubai can say, oh, well, it's all over, we're the safest country in the world again. But this thing about putting 70 Britons under arrest for social media posting, and it is the influencer capital of the world, that will take a lot longer to undo, I think.
Most definitely. Well, a big reaction to our conversation about the Conservatives and Reform UK. And how about this from Michelle? Good morning, Mark. Great show, but please can I say Reform do have policies? They've got 19 policies. Charlotte needs to read their website. That's Michelle in Bristol. Kevin in Barnstable. Charlotte should wake up if she really cares for the country. The Tories are serially untrustworthy and will revert to type if they get back in. The likes of Gawke and Greening dictating sensible policy again from behind the scenes fills me with dread. the coalition this country needs is between all of the new right parties. Reform need to unite with Habib and Lowe to make clear what they really think. Unfortunately, too many on the government payroll are too stupid to see past their own short-term prospects towards the full horror of what lies in store if the left continue to succeed by default, as they're currently doing. This from Steve in Lancashire. Don't agree with Charlotte. The dodgy Conservatives are still in the Tory party. The true Tories left to join Nigel. It goes on. And it's interesting, isn't it? I'm really glad that you've sparked this debate. And I understand your concerns about the Reform project because Nigel Farage has never been in power. There are figures like Richard Tice and Zia Youssef who don't know about the machinery of government. So they're definitely unproven and untested. Plus, there is the question mark about what their policies would be. Is it affordable? Are they left-wing? Are they right-wing? Some are saying that they are crypto-socialists when it comes to the economy, talking about nationalisation, that sort of thing. So I think you're right to raise a question. But I think so many of my viewers and listeners just feel that the entire political establishment have failed the country, both Labour and the Conservatives, and what they want is a clean sweep. They want the establishment wiped out, and they see Nigel as the man to do it.
I can totally see that, and I think, you know, if they are unproven, untested, and they're not bogged down by the blob, and I am a big believer that the blob bogs politicians down, then it would be a clean sweep. And I can imagine actually having very little knowledge of what goes on in Westminster would actually be quite handy, because the less you know, the more you can just disregard, you know, the bureaucracy. So I can agree with that. I can see what you mean about the clean sweep.
I mean, it's cultural partly, isn't it? If you look at the Conservatives when they presided over the pandemic, and I broadcast from this very studio on the Drive Time show when we had 3 national lockdowns, the most unconservative idea ever. Yes, COVID was nasty. It took too many people. But, you know, the Swedish approach, in the end, they told people the risk. They had great outcomes. They were the lowest excess deaths in the whole of Europe. What was their response? It was probably the sort of right-wing conservative response is what they did. We didn't get that from Boris. Theresa May, who's described herself as proudly woke, signed up for net zero. Her chancellor at the time, Phil Hammond, do you remember him? Spreadsheet Phil?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
He presented the Prime Minister with the potential cost of these net zero ambitions, and it was $1 trillion. And a Conservative Prime Minister says, $1 trillion? Yeah, no problem, where do I sign? Right? Again, I would argue an unconservative position. And then you've got the wokery in the public institutions, and you've got the open borders, the Boris wave, and then the boats. So it seems that the Tories in power just stop being right-wing, and I think that there are just people in this country, they want true conservatism. They don't trust the Tories to deliver it.
Because the Tories will get sucked into the machinery again, I suppose. That's their feeling. I seem to remember, and correct me if I'm wrong because it was a while ago, but I think Boris's first instinct was to go down the Swedish route, and he was persuaded otherwise by all the spreadsheets and advisors. But
yeah, that's true.
If Farage comes in with his fresh slate and his fresh eyes and says, this is all nonsense, is that actually possible? Because the machinery of government still has to operate and departments still have to operate.
And
Can he just actually disregard them?
And
that's what I mean. Can he disassemble the blob? You know, I think Boris wanted to disassemble the blob at one point. But it's just almost impossible. It's like walking into a quagmire or sinking sand, you know. And I do just wonder whether Farage, obviously out of government, can be very forthright and opinionated, and it's all very fresh and exciting. I get that. But once he steps foot in number 10, he'll just get sucked in just like everybody else does.
Well, Rupert Lowe would agree with you. The head of Reform UK, the head of Restore UK, ex-Reform, and he said that he thinks Nigel Farage will let people down when he wins power. But I've got viewers and listeners who just say, look, even if things are 10% better under Reform, I'll take that. They see the damage of the Tories, and I take your point that Boris was bounced into the 3 lockdowns. Also, he inherited the net zero targets, and the Boris wave was a result of civil servants in the Home Office saying if we don't bring people in, there's going to be a skills gap, inflation's going to explode, and public services will collapse. So that's what he was told. So, you know, there is, you know, it's always shades of grey, but viewers and listeners to this show, you know, they're struggling, the inflation, the wokery, the open borders. The one thing that Farage will have that perhaps the Tories won't have, Labour will never have, is a sort of Trumpian level of political will. to come in, drain that swamp. You know, if they win an overall majority, they will have a licence to really, really change the country.
Well, so did Keir Starmer. He had an overall majority, although it was very thin. But on the Trumpian thing, I think you're right, because the difference with Boris is he had these very conservative ideas and he wanted to make a lot of changes, but he cared a lot about what people thought about him, and so he wasn't able to be as stable as he might have been otherwise and just plough on through. Whereas you do get the impression that Nigel will just plough on through. He doesn't care. Nothing sticks to him. He's like Teflon, just like Trump, and he doesn't want it to stick to him. He just doesn't care what other people think, and that will be extremely refreshing, especially after Keir Starmer, who can't tell what he's doing from 1 minute to the next.
Well, listen, over to you folks, because I think you feel very passionately about this, that many people feel that we've tried the Tories, we've had a coalition, we've tried Labour. The country has been on a downward trajectory for 3 decades now, arguably, I might even say, since the late 80s, frankly, our national decline. Is Nigel our only hope? Let me know your thoughts. Will Farage deliver for Britain if he becomes Prime Minister? 03444991000. So much more to come. More front pages. This is Talk Breakfast.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to Talk Breakfast. It is 7:41. With me live in the studio is the editor-at-large at the Mail on Sunday, and we have a significant developing royal story. Queen Elizabeth advised Prince Harry to wait a year before marrying Meghan Markle, according to a new biography. Although the future Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Markle, was initially welcomed into royal circles following the start of her relationship with Prince Harry, his grandmother Elizabeth reportedly expressed reservations. This is according to a new biography of the late Queen by Hugo Vickers. Well, let's get reaction from Charlotte Griffiths. Now, Charlotte, what do you make of this?
Well, I remember at the time, everyone that asked Harry to slow down, including his best friend Tom Inskip, Prince William, and now we find out the Queen, who told Harry to slow down, were immediately cut off. I think he even said to Tom Inskip, "You're dead to me," or something like that. He just was not in the mood to hear it. He didn't want anyone to tell him to slow down. And even the Queen, whose opinion is so valued by the entire country, was disregarded. But of course, I think she was advising him exactly the right thing. I mean, if he'd just given it a year or two. And I think he's starting to wake up to it now. I think he's starting to wake up to how quickly he rushed into it.
And Tom Bower's devastating new book about the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, Harry and Meghan, reveals that the Queen, Camilla, took the view that Meghan had brainwashed Harry, and it seems like she'd convinced him that they needed to marry and they needed to marry quickly.
Yes, I wonder if it's because she's slightly older than him and she wants to have babies. And he was absolutely determined to have a family. That was the one thing missing in his life at the time. And he was really, really lonely. I do remember how lonely he was. He was just desperate to start a family. And she, being, I think, 2 or 3 years older than him, may have just said, come on, let's just do it. Let's crack on. And then the other thing that's quite funny is that posh people get married 6 months after they get engaged. So they couldn't really wait a year because it's just not what the aristos do. So once they got engaged, it was kind of hell for leather, let's get this done as soon as possible.
Well, listen, you've been writing with great expertise about the royals for many years, Charlotte, in your brief as editor-at-large at the Mail on Sunday, which is #1 for Royal Scoops. Can you do a little bit of a psychological deep dive on Meghan Markle in regard to this timeline? Do you think that she wanted to get married quickly, A, because of her biological clock, which was ticking, and B, because she wanted to close the deal, she wanted to bag this prince?
Yes, I should have said before, not that I think the biological clock was the actual factor. I just think that's what she was telling him, and of course he bought it. But I actually think she was love-bombing him, completely love-bombing him, playing along with all their plans at the time, saying, of course I want to live in South Africa, because he really wanted to live in South Africa at the time. She was playing along with that, even viewing houses in South Africa via a WhatsApp group. But actually had no intention of moving to South Africa with him and escaping the press and living a private life. What she always intended to do was go to California, but she had to play along with everything he wanted for a certain amount of time. And there's only so much time she can tolerate not getting her own way, playing the royal game. So I think she wanted to hurry it up for that reason, and also, of course, to close the deal, because once they're engaged and it's announced, then they've got to actually do it. And the other thing she used to do was she used to drop little hints that they were dating. He wanted to keep it a secret that they were dating for as long as possible. And she used to wear bracelets from him and walk around Kensington Palace wearing welly boots to try and get noticed, because she didn't want to keep their relationship a secret, I don't think, because she knew once people knew about it, it was real, it became a thing. So,
well, she's wearing the welly boots because what, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, I'm off to Sandringham later?
Well, I think it was, yeah, I think it's I'm walking through
country attire.
Country attire in Kensington shows I'm staying at Kensington Palace, I'm walking through that kind of garden.
Right.
I think that's what that was all about. And she did duly get caught on camera in her welly boots. I think it was a fairly sunny day, I don't think it was even raining. But yes, there was some sort of hint. She's very good at symbolism and knowing what makes a good picture.
I'm staying on a big estate with lots of land, nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
Yes, yes, and here I am in Kensington still wearing the boots and wearing a baseball cap, but with her hair very long, and it was very obviously her. She went to Whole Foods in Kensington, which is actually where we all go, we Daily Mail journalists, we all go for our lunch.
Because it's around the corner from the office.
It's around the corner from the office, and it's also around the corner from Kensington Palace. So how clever of her to go for lunch, walk around in circles wearing her welly boots.
Going into
lunchtime.
If you go into the Whole Foods in Kensington, South Kensington, you are going into the Lion's Den journalistically.
I mean, it's the Daily Mail canteen. It may as well be the Daily Mail canteen. So yes, she's certainly going to the Lion's Den, and of course she got caught, and the pictures came out, and then finally their relationship was properly exposed.
Now you're suggesting that she leveraged or even weaponised her biological clock to marry Harry quickly.
I do think that. It's just my opinion.
Yes,
I do think. I think she leveraged anything she'd get her hands on at the time to marry Harry quickly.
And what do you mean by love bombing?
She absolutely played to all his weaknesses. You know, he was very lonely at the time, and she said, look, I'll fulfill all your dreams. I'll protect you from the evil press. Let's run away together to Africa. But he did love bomb her as well, because on their third date, he took her to Africa, to Botswana, which is pretty extreme for a third date, I'd say. But any misgivings she had about the royal family or British life or opening swimming pools in Doncaster, you know, she buried all those, I think. But as soon as she got married to him, of course she was never going to go and do the ribbon cutting that's the bread and butter of the royal family. She was going to go to California and be a star. That's all she ever wanted. And she wanted the fame. And I think she buried that as well. I think she made him think, oh no, I don't want to do interviews with Oprah. But of course she did.
Do you think her plan ultimately was to bag a prince and ship him off to the United States?
Yes, I do think that. And I remember when they were dating, long before they were engaged, a friend of theirs said, by the way, they're moving to California. They're moving to Malibu, it was at the time. It wasn't Montecito where they ended up. And this was before they were even engaged. They were absolutely convinced that Meghan's plan was to move them to Malibu.
That they planned to move to the United States whilst they were dating, or at least Meghan wanted to do that.
Meghan wants to move to Malibu, and they discussed Malibu. That's what I was told at the time when they just started dating.
So Megxit was almost, you know, being sort of hatched as an idea long before the wedding.
I think so, absolutely. And that would explain why they invited Oprah Winfrey to their wedding, because they were always planning to do the Megxit and the big reveal and the big interview. I think it was always part of the plan. They maybe even settled it before they got engaged. And
therefore, a picture emerges. If you look at the love bombing, Megxit was in Meghan's mind's eye whilst they were dating. This starts to emerge as an example of a con trick, doesn't it? Do you think Harry was hoodwinked into marrying this woman? You know, when someone tries to con you, it's always urgent, isn't it? Well,
yes.
I'm stuck in Malaysia, you need to wire the money to me now. And because it's an emergency, you don't think it through.
Yeah.
It's strong language, I know, but does it look like Harry was the victim of a con trick here? Was he tricked into marriage?
Yeah, quite possibly, because the best time to persuade him to do things is at the very beginning, because we all know what the very beginning of falling in love is like. It's the best bit, so that's the time when you get your way and you can persuade somebody. So no wonder she wanted to kind of get it all sealed and delivered ASAP.
Meanwhile, we are hearing today that Harry, the Duke of Sussex, hopes to be reunited with the royal family this summer on the Sandringham estate. This is a Sun story. What do you make of this?
This is a classic, because I've been on the other end of this. This is a classic example of Harry deciding he wants to do something, revealing it to all the papers, and then it sort of happens because the king is bounced into it. And I think that's what he's trying to do here. He's trying to bag himself an invite to Sandringham during the summer, although the king tends to go to Balmoral during the summer, but I don't know how he's going to manage that one. And but also at the same time using his kids as leverage, saying, but I'll only come. Not that he's had an invite. I want an invite, but I'll only come if the kids can come. And I don't think this summer the king will be in the mood for any of this. There's too much going on. He may or may not be going to the States to see Trump. There's a Middle East war going on. I just don't think that this game, which he has now played out 2 or 3 times in the last year, I just don't think Charles will fall for it.
Do you think it's a no from the king? Harry wants to unite with his father and the king says no.
I think so. I think the king does want to unite, but I know he hates being bounced into it, using the Sun, you know, and it's on the Times as well.
So do you think, therefore, that this has come from the Sussexes?
If I had to guess, I'd say probably it has. And also there's another something at play here, which is that the Invictus Games is coming next summer, 2027, and I think he wants to do a kind of walkabout with the kids and with the king and have some sort of contact with the king in the 1-year build-up to Invictus, because that's why he's coming over in the summer to say, oh, it's 1 year until we come over for Invictus. And I noticed this piece doesn't mention Meghan at all coming over. So Harry has got some self-awareness that stage 1 of reuniting with the king will be if he leaves Meghan behind.
So do you think that his plan is Sandringham potentially this summer, just himself and his family, and then Meghan and the kids 2027? Is that the timeline?
I think that's the timeline, yeah.
Right, so you don't think it's conceivable that Meghan pitches up in the UK this summer?
I think if she did, the doors to Sandringham would close extremely quickly with a bolt on them.
So Meghan is a reverse deal breaker for the king. If she's there, then you've got no chance of reconciliation at this stage.
I think absolutely. The king is actually, or was, fond of Meghan, but everybody around him just says she's an absolute danger zone. Don't go there. And also, I think they want to see Harry on his own, to see if maybe he is coming to his senses a bit when it comes to Meghan, now that they're 6 or 7 years married, or 5 or 6 years married, whether the blinkers have come off a bit and he is starting to see her true colours, and maybe they can get to him. And if it's true that Camilla thinks he's been brainwashed, then they might want to get him on his own so they can reverse the brainwashing.
Fix the damage, or let me tell you that Charlotte Griffiths is #1 for Royal Scoops, editor-at-large at the Mail on Sunday. More to come. This is Talk Breakfast.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On your smart speaker. On your smart TV. And on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to Talk Breakfast. I've got a simple question today. Labour are going to cling on to power for the next 3 years. Will they break Britain? This is a voice note. Big Dave, if you don't mind, can we go down to Tristan?
Hi, Mark. It's clear and obvious Labour have broken Britain. They're a Britain-hating party, and their policy is basically Britain last in every single which way, from the situation we have with the illegal immigrants, to the situation we have with energy, to the situation we have with law and order, with two-tier justice. I mean, the list is endless. I can go on and on and on. The amount of scandals, and the thing is they've got a media that's enabling it all. Simple. And it's just, it's horrifying, to be honest with you, to see where we're going to be in 3 years' time. I think the country is near enough cooked, to be honest, unless drastic changes happen. Anyway, cheers, Mark. Thanks.
Thank you, Tristan. Horrifying is Tristan's word about the prospects for this country under a Labour government that is now shifting even more leftwards. The biggest tax burden since the Second World War, well, it's grown higher under this Labour government. The Tories started it, we know that. They've doubled down on net zero during an energy crisis. Make it make sense. Wokery in our public institutions. Zero growth in the economy for the month of January. Rising inflation and the return of unemployment, particularly youth unemployment. That is Labour's legacy, right? Labour's legacy. Starmer's probably going to go after May, and they're going to head even more leftwards. So will Labour break Britain? Big Barry is in Norwich. Hi, Barry.
Good morning, Mark. How are you?
I'm very well. Listen, I want to get your thoughts on reform in just a moment, but what do you think about the prospects for the country over the next 3 years? Will Labour break Britain?
I think they've already broken it, and I think the previous Conservative Party broke it. Yeah, I think the last time this country had a proper Conservative government was Margaret Thatcher. Yeah. Ever since then, I think the Conservative Party have been a wet. Yeah, not even being Conservative. I mean,
Barry, I agree with you. I think it goes back to 90 and the dispatch of Margaret Thatcher, who was the last true Conservative leader of this country. I
mean, yeah, because this government at the moment, and have been driving me around the bend because I'm a very small state, personal responsibility person. I hate government in my life, and they're everywhere at the moment. They're driving me around the bend, and the prospect of a Zach Polanski Labour Party and SDP or whatever they are merging just drives you around the bend. The thought of it just... It's really worrying. I mean, what's happening at the moment, Barry, is that you've got a Labour government that is shifting leftwards. There's one great policy from the Home Secretary, which is making people wait 10 years rather than 5 years for indefinite leave to remain. It's a great policy. She wants you to speak the language, have a good income and not have a criminal record. Starmer's going to scrap that and open the floodgates to mass immigration. Well, he always was, wasn't he? I mean, he doesn't like this country, Starmer. He hates Britain. He'd rather be in Davos than be in Westminster. That just says it all to you, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? It does. But Barry, listen, Baz, what I'm worried about, because you're saying that reform, you've told my brilliant producer, Tommy, that you supported reform until they took on the Tories. Yeah. The problem is, right, that aren't reform Britain's only hope? No, I'm voting Restore, and I'm voting for Rupert Lowe, at the next election. Because, at the start, I thought Nigel Farage and Reform were anti-establishment. They were going to be a new broom. They were going to do all this, do it. And now they're just filling up with what I think is ex-Tories who are pursuing their careers. They're realising that the Tories party is a sinking ship, and they're jumping off it into... I mean, you had Robert Jenrick was slagging off Nigel Farage, and Nigel Farage was slagging him off, and now they're best buddies. I mean, However, would you take Prime Minister Nigel Farage over
a Starmer-led left-wing coalition?
Oh, I'd take Prime Minister Barry from Norwich over that. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, so would I, by the way. Because, Barry, we've spoken before and you talk a lot of sense. What a brilliant call. Barry, have an excellent Sunday.
Yeah,
we will speak soon. Thank you, Barry. Barry not messing around there, not pulling his punches. Will Labour break Britain? They're going to be in power for 3 years. There won't be a snap general election because turkeys don't vote for Christmas. So what do you think? How much damage can they inflict on the nation? Over to you. 0344 499 1000. This is Talk Breakfast.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Let's get this right. What time is it exactly? Wait, is it 7? Is it 8? Is it 9? Well, engineer Dave has told me what time it is. It is 3 minutes past 8. That's right, folks. Spring forward, which means the clocks have gone forward. We've lost an hour of sleep. But let me tell you, we're coming in hot today, so 3 minutes past 8. Happy Sunday, one and all. I'm Mark Dolan. This is Talk Breakfast, and I'm delighted to say I'm with you for the next 2 days. I'm looking after breakfast tomorrow morning in for Jezza. Do join me then. Breaking this morning. And Sir Keir Starmer opens the floodgates to mass immigration as the PM plans to row back on planned rules to tighten up indefinite leave to remain. Shabana Mahmood, the excellent Home Secretary, wants to make people wait 10 years rather than 5 before they can settle. She wants to make sure they've got a job and an income. She wants to make sure that they speak the language to a high standard. And she wants to make sure they haven't got a criminal record. Well, Labour are going to row back on that. They're going to open the floodgates And this indefinite leave to remain and the Boris wave, it comes with a bill, folks. And the bill is a reported £250 billion. So we'll cover that. It's a big story. Labour's immigration betrayal. Meanwhile, apocalypse for Labour in the local elections as they're predicted to lose every one of the 50 seats in Sunderland that they hold, with most going to Reform UK. And it looks like they're going to lose London as well to the Greens. So be careful what you wish for, folks, as it appears that there's a risk now that Labour will be replaced by the Greens as the dominant party of the left. Be afraid, be very afraid. So I've got a simple question for you at 8:05 on a Sunday morning. Will Labour break Britain? We know they're going to cling on to power for dear life, which means 3 years of this Labour government. I suspect that Starmer will be gone by the end of the summer, at which point he'll be replaced by an even more left-wing candidate. So you're going to double down on net zero. You're going to double down on wokery. You're going to have bigger debts, more inflation, more unemployment. So can we survive the next 3 years of this Labour government? Will Labour break Britain? 0344 499 1000. Tommy is taking your calls. He's on very good form this morning. And let me tell you that it's all about your opinions. You can hear us on DAB Plus in-app and online. You can also watch the show. And we are on DAB Plus, but on YouTube. Just head over to YouTube, search Talking Up, we pop, and you see all of the excitement in the studio, which is unending and unlimited. This is Talk Breakfast. Let's talk. Also having a bit of fun on a Sunday morning. My goodness, sorry, folks. The brain is not quite in yet. That's what happens if you take an hour of sleep off me. The BBC are having a nightmare trying to replace Tess and Claudia on Strictly, OK? And here's who they think is going to solve their problems. Someone called Miranda Hart, right? Now, she's a talented lady. She's a nice lady. She had a self-named sitcom called Miranda. You know, she's got funny bones. She's nice. She was in Call the Midwife. This woman hasn't been on telly for 10 years. And she's the BBC's great hope as host of Strictly. So I've been asking you who should host Strictly. A few people have suggested Jim Davidson, which I think is a brilliant idea. Absolutely brilliant. I think Jim Davidson and Stan Boardman. Let's have some funny men on telly again. Or what about our friend Tommy Cannon? He's still going. He still knows his onions. Well, here's a voice note on Strictly. This is Jane.
Morning, Mark. Weren't they holding auditions for Strictly outside the House of Commons a few weeks ago? I saw Lindsay Hoyle, Hannah Spencer, all there tiptoeing about. Have we not got a shortlist already?
I quite like that. And this is Eugenie on Strictly.
Good morning, Mark. Super show as always. Eugenie from Bexhill-on-Sea. I think Ricky Gervais should host Strictly Come Dancing.
Well, he's a very funny man. That would work, wouldn't it? A few of you have suggested the Speaker of the House, actually, because he dances around the Prime Minister. Great line. You could also go for, as suggested, and I can't find the name of the person, but I've had a very wise audience member who has suggested Julia Hartley-Brewer, which I think is a brilliant idea. Because what has Julia got? Julia's got the brains. She's got the charm, the wit. She's got the broadcasting chops. She's a journalist. She's very beautiful. And most importantly, she's got the pins. Julia Hartley-Brewer has got a pair of legs on her. And let me tell you that she dances around politicians every day as the host of Mid-Mornings here on Talk. Julia Hartley-Brewer for Strictly. Wouldn't that be fantastic? Folks, live in the studio, Peter Barnes, political strategist and expert in the Foxtrot. Hello, Peter.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm very well. Lovely to have you on the show. Labour's immigration betrayal. Keir Starmer is planning to soften immigration reforms as he makes a pitch for what the Mirror are calling the centre ground. This isn't the centre ground. No. This is the far left.
Yeah, don't listen to the Mirror when it comes to what's left wing, because, you know, Lenin didn't quite have it, I'm afraid, when it comes to that lot. But no, this is really, really important, because I actually don't think this was ever the plan. This was just an announcement. They had to come out with something because of the scale of the small boats crisis. You just have kind of Reformer obviously dominating everything. The Labour all over the place in the polls, and they needed a single policy to kind of get some good headlines. This was it. This was never meant to be implemented at all, in my opinion, because there is no way a sensible Home Secretary would announce they're going to return people back to Afghanistan without the arrangements to do so. That's not a sensible policy. This was just announcement after announcement after announcement. Get through the cycle, get through the news cycle, get through the day.
And to have people like me, useful idiots like me, praising the Home Secretary for a good idea.
Sadly,
basically, I've taken the bait.
A little bit, and a lot of people have. I hear it right across, particularly from those of us on the right as well, because it's just some kind of common sense out of a nonsense building. And, you know, you kind of cling to it. But I hate to say it, she's not great. She is a big problem. She has the power to do a lot of good, and she's not doing it. She is sitting on her hands deliberately.
So you think the announcement of doubling the length of time that you have to wait for indefinite leave to remain was essentially political theatre?
Yep. It's cheap matinee at best.
Right.
Drag out.
You say this draft policy was essentially a lie?
Essentially, yeah. I don't think it essentially was. It was a lie. 100%, because they have done none of the work to even begin to implement any of it, because of the sheer size of what they announced and what they would have to do. They've not even started negotiations with a foreign nation, you know, to be able to bring back, to send people back.
But is Shabana Mahmood that shallow? Because many people, including Trevor Cavan, a former political editor of The Sun, have said she's an impressive politician. Is she really that cheap? We know a lot of them are, but many single her out as a talent.
Yes, but when the talent is that low, anybody that could tie their own shoelaces looks like a genius. So this is the thing. She's a big fish in a very, very small puddle, and that's how she's been able to kind of position herself, and she's done it for a long time. Even when she was Justice Secretary, and even when she was running Labour campaigns, this is what she did. She was very good at looking like the person that was doing something when actually she wasn't even doing anything.
She's a big fish in a puddle, and it turns out a flipper.
Pretty much, yeah. And it's one of those really annoying puddles where it's, you know, it's a bit deep, and then it goes in your shoe. But the big thing I have with this particular announcement is obviously the Boris wave and how much it's going to cost us. We don't really understand how much trouble this could cause, because we don't understand how much trouble we're already in.
This is a gigantic mortgage. Yes. This is a Ponzi scheme. Explain to my audience why.
Right, so basically, we have a debt ratio to our GDP of 93.1%. We have a interest loan rate of £112 billion a year. That's what we have to pay just on the interest alone of the amount of money that we owe.
That's two government departments just on interest.
Yes, pretty much, yeah. About Lindsay Hoyle's expenses, I imagine, at this point. But again, this idea also that people have, there's a bailout. There's the IMF, the European nations. There's no money. There is no money. Every European nation is in debt to each other. Whoever thought that was a good idea, of people with no money lending money they don't have to another person with no money, was stupidity of the highest order. And this has gone on and on and on. So you look at France, stands at 117%. Italy, 137% of debt. Spain, 103%. So nobody can lend us any money if it all goes bad. And this is not going to be a kind of big Hollywood collapse. This is going to be a slow break. You're going to hear it creak and creak and creak, and then there's going to be a crack. And unfortunately, it's going to hurt, and it's going to make 2008 look like the day before payday. Now, it's going to be very bad. And you throw in this Boris wave and all the compounding problems we've got of net zero, over-regulation, throw in there's just a mess.
Inflation, of course.
Inflation. And then, you've got the energy crisis, which isn't going away because it's not the Iran war. We already were in an energy crisis.
Correct.
It is just one compounding after another, after another, after another. I don't want to ruin anybody's Sunday, but start buying tinned goods.
It looks like it.
Yeah.
Nigel Farage has been calling this out as well. He thinks there's going to be an economic event in the next 12 months which may provoke an early general election. We can but dream. Does that view of Mr. Farage have any credence that we'll get an emergency election?
It does, but you're relying on people who don't understand the economy to listen to people who do understand the economy, that they're the problem. So this is the thing. You consider the markets will force a leadership challenge or they'll force an election. They don't have to. If this government refuses to do it, they could just do whatever they want. The government calls the elections, not the markets. So this thing, they could just say, oh, it's billionaires doing it, because that's the narrative we'll hear. Oh, the markets are going mental because these people in their big mansions, they're not happy because they've not made as much money. That is the narrative you've got to hear, because it's how they'll combat the Greens. This is why you bring it all the way back to what you were talking about earlier on in your show, about how the Greens are the real threat to the country, because they're going to force the government even further to the left than they already are.
Why do you think Nigel is talking about an emergency election next year?
I think, he's doing it because he gets his name in the headlines, and I think we're coming up to locals, so there's obviously the politics of it. He's not wrong to say that this is a possibility, because Keir Starmer is clinging on. But the old rules of politics don't apply anymore. Nigel Farage is proof of that. So this idea that he's just going to go, or, that once we get to the May elections and all these terrible results, he's going to go, I don't see it, because that we're going off old rules.
So not only are you saying that we're stuck with this Labour government for 3 years, you think we're stuck with Starmer?
I generally do. I really do, because I don't think there's any appetite for Angela Rayner anymore. Everybody in the cabinet seems very annoyed at Ed Miliband at the moment because of his net zero kind of zealotry. So they're all getting it.
And the Labour unions now are against it.
And they're all over the place. And they don't have a candidate anymore, because even they're starting to divide up. So I don't think there's an appetite, because there's no unifying figure. If there was one person, I think we'd be in a very different situation. But I do think that Starmer will literally cling on because there is nobody else.
Does that mean Starmer fights the next election?
I think he will. I genuinely, at least he thinks he will anyway, the way he's talking, the way he's positioning everything. I think he genuinely believes not only is he going to run, he's going to win. I think he thinks he's going to win.
In a worst case scenario, is Starmer your best option? Given the alternative of Prime Minister Miliband or Prime Minister Rayner? Because we're not going to get Prime Minister Streeting, who's on the right of the party, because of his links to Mandelson, his incredibly thin majority, and I think just his general place on the spectrum within the party. Then Shabana Mahmood, too right wing.
Yes. The question will be really who survives. If there is a general election and the Labour Party do somehow still exist, I do think, this about meant to get at least be the largest party, who survives to be in the cabinet? Who is actually going to be the ones to carry the Labour Party forward? But even now, because there's a rumour of another reshuffle, because it's the last hand of a failing Prime Minister, as they always call it, is another reshuffle. You just move the deck chairs on the Titanic and pray the iceberg comes soon. But yeah, that's kind of where we are. But we're trying to use old rules to predict what's happening now, but we're so far out of the out of the known that we don't really know. And this is the bit that's kind of, again, driving this kind of sense of panic, this sense of, oh God, what's going to happen next, which doesn't help the markets, which then kind of only spirals into further out of control. It is chaos in SW1 pretty much every day at the moment, because nobody knows if he's going to go, are they going to go, what other nonsense are we going to have to deal with, who's lost the phone this week, who left their iPad somewhere, and then we've got all the Iran stuff, all just chaos. So foreign affairs is just a mess. It is absolutely dire at the moment.
Starmer hasn't backed a war which will likely be judged very favourably by history. Starmer, of course, somebody that's the broken clock that isn't even right twice a day, which is an appropriate day to do this, because still no one knows what time it is.
No, nothing.
Have you got any idea? What time?
I don't know.
Peter Barnes, what time is it?
I don't know. I'm looking at like 3 different times at the moment, even in this very room. And I find it quite funny because, you've got Big Ben. I still think people don't know whether that's telling the right time or not.
No, well, there's nothing true that comes from that building. Yeah. It is 8:17 is what time it is. Steve Swinford, the excellent political editor of the Times newspaper, has revealed the following. Labour's internal polling is said to be apocalyptic in the capital and beyond. So, for example, Sunderland, which is a Labour stronghold, heartlands, they're expected to lose every single one of their 50 seats in Sunderland, home to Bridget Phillipson, the Education Secretary. Those votes are going to go to Reform. Meanwhile, they are going to lose vast swathes of London to the Greens. What are the political implications of May? If Starmer stays, does it just go beyond bad headlines?
It's interesting, really, because if you throw into that the fact that Starmer's offered Sadiq Khan a chance to sit in the House of Lords, which is usually, which normally means this is chaos, please don't run against me, you're probably going to lose, but here's your off-ramp to carry on your job, basically. That's what that is. They are predicting them that they're going to lose. my thing with the Greens is, as I've been looking at the numbers this morning, it does seem to be that they have the potential to either be the biggest wrecking ball ever, or they're going to fizzle out like a cheap Catherine wheel, because their own numbers are collapsing internally as well. So again, it's going to be so much of a mess. It's going to make the right look like, the Brady Brunch is rather delightful, really, compared to what that is going to turn out to be, because your party finally seem to have got some sense of kind of cohesion, and they seem to be back on the rise as well. So we're going to start seeing the biggest fracture in politics isn't the right, it is the left, because at least the right kind of can get on with each other. The left are all out, knives at jugglers at the moment. It is brutal, and I don't really know where that stands for London and the London Assembly, because the voting patterns in London at the moment are all over the place. But candidate selection is going to be key. Absolute key, not only at kind of assembly level, but also who each party puts up as the candidate. It is going to be, for the London Mayor, it's going to be a very, very interesting battle, probably more interesting than the overall, probably what's going to happen if you look at the Senate votes and the ones up in Scotland as well, because if Labour lose Wales, that's beyond apocalyptic for the Labour Party.
Well, we are in strange times, aren't we? With Reform on the march in Scotland, of all places.
Yes, doing very, very well. Very well,
where back in the day, 10 years ago, to spot a Conservative north of the border, the Loch Ness Monster was more familiar a figure than anybody on the right.
Nigel was locked in a pub in Scotland. I'm sure he had a terrible afternoon locked in a pub. But,
that's his dream.
But yeah, that's how crazy everything is, because people are so angry about what the situation that we find ourselves in, that anybody who is part of the establishment in any way is going to get it in the neck, and voters don't really care that much about the consequences at the moment. When we get close to the general election, that is when policy really kicks in. What are you going to do? How are you going to do it? How much is it going to cost is a big one, particularly in Wales. There's a huge kind of voter kind of projection base.
I'm delighted to say Engineer Dave has been very busy on the voice notes. Let's take a listen to Anna picking up on our conversation about Reform UK. Here's Anna.
Good morning, guys. Anna, sorry. You're just discussing Reform peaking. I don't think it's the fact that they've peaked or taken on too many Tories. I think it's that they're going too centrist, and to their right is Rupert Lowe, who I greatly admire. Currently, I would vote Reform. I think there are a lot of those polls are not correct. I don't know anyone, quite frankly, that isn't voting for Reform, apart from the odd Green person. If Rupert Lowe can organise himself, I have to be frank, I'd jump to Rupert Lowe. If this does not result in a right-wing government, I don't think it matters whether it's Polanski, the crazy Green, or Starmer the coward. I think it's civil war. Thank you, Mark. Bye-bye.
What a worrying thought. Reaction to that? Thank you, Anna.
It's very interesting, actually. I hear that quite a lot of people who are kind of losing kind of faith in Farage, and I think it isn't that they peaked, it's that the momentum has slowed down. I always said that this year was going to be Nigel's toughest year in professional politics, because he had to keep the train going. He had to really kind of put all the coal into the engine and power through like you've never seen. And they also had to do a lot of work behind the scenes. That has been proven to be very difficult because of financing and a lot of other issues. But the thing you have to get into your heads is, I don't think there's going to be a big majority at the next general election. It is going to be a kind of loose coalition. It is going to be some kind of deals and pacts. We're going to see a lot more European-style politics in the House of Commons about who's voting with who sits where.
Because the left will work together to keep Farage out of number 10.
Yes, 100% that. And this is why the right has to... I always say you don't have to live in the same house, you have to live on the same street. So in other words, you know, make sure your neighbourhood is tidy, but you don't all have to all get on with each other. And I think this is the bit where they've got to get it into their heads that Rupert Lowe only has to have 1 or 2 MPs. Ben Habib only has to have 3 or 4. And then the Tories are not going anywhere, despite what anybody says. And also you've then got the Reform MPs as well. They all have to get on with each other, but they've got to kind of work together, not at the election, but kind of after the election, for when the deals actually come together.
The thing is, I don't see a coalition between the Tories and Reform being in any way problematic, because I think that the great crimes of the Conservatives are in the past: signing up to the suicide of net zero, wokery in public institutions, open borders, the Boris wave, in my view, the COVID overreaction. The Tories have all atoned for those crimes. Now, I've got plenty of audience members who think, yeah, but let them back in and they'll do the same. And I agree with that. But Kemi Badenoch has shifted the party rightwards.
Oh, yes.
She's going to scrap stamp duty, tear up the ECHR.
The burqa ban?
The burqa ban.
That is huge. That is huge for the Conservative
Why
Party.
is it huge?
Because not only is that a kind of taking on Reform and Rupert Lowe, it is also taking on her own party. There is still a lot of the kind of what most people say the wets or whatever within the Conservative Party, and they have always said that the ECHR was a red line. They wavered on that, and Kemi's kept them together. If she can have a policy of banning the burqa and keeping the Conservative Party together, that is a very incredible woman, I have to admit, because that is not a party that is kind of even now in harmony with itself. So if she's able to do that, not only has she been able to kind of take it to Nigel, but she's also taking it to Rupert Lowe as well, where she's kind of re-establishing the Conservative Party within the right, but she's doing it, I think, in a smarter way than playing the kind of big rhetoric cards. She's doing it through specific policy changes. Everything seems to be costed, and it's packages. It's not one shiny thing. So the burqa ban comes with lots of kind of what Maloney calls cultural crimes. So she's going after female genital mutilation. She's going after all these other little bits that make up a big package, basically.
And it's very Reform UK messaging.
It is, but it's also very old school Conservative message, because that's what Reform is. Everyone always says it's Reform messaging.
But that makes a coalition with the Tories more palatable. And more palatable to Farage.
Which is why I've always said was going to be the plan.
Farage has got to be sat there with a cigar in his, on the go, with a little whiskey in the evening, watching Newsnight or whatever, listening to Kemi Badenoch saying all cultures are not equal. Right? Yeah. And he must be thinking to himself, wait a minute, this is someone I can do business with.
Yes, it is. But the thing is, they need the Conservative Party functioning, but not kind of alive, but not functioning, basically. So he needs the party because they've got the machine, they've got the reach, the power, the people, the actual institutions that you need to be able to pull the levers to run a government.
And they've still got money as well.
Yes, and they still get a lot of money, and they will be a lot more to kind of keep Nigel out, I suspect, as we get closer to elections. But the thing is, Nigel and the team there, they've not been able to put any of that together. So they need the Tories in peace. This idea that they want them destroyed has never been the plan, which is one of the reasons I think the kind of hop, skip and a jump of people like Suella and Jenrick was actually kind of not part of the plan in a long-term way, but kind of, this is quite handy because it's bringing them together. It's making it more palatable for the Reformers that don't like the Tories and the Tories that don't like the Reformers to at least live in the same building.
Labour are going to cling to power for 3 years. Will they break Britain? This is Talk Breakfast.
Welcome to Down the Local, the show that goes from pub to pub across the country, speaking to the punters about the subjects driving us all nuts at the moment.
That's Rachel Reeves, Rachel Thieves, Rachel McCounts.
I don't really know Meghan Markle. I know Meghan Markle from Suits, and that's about it.
I don't know about anyone else, and I don't know where this is going. I have 0% beers, and I feel
raising the flag, I think, is symptomatic of this desperation.
Is public transport good value for money?
No, it isn't.
You really don't like speaking to people.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Will Labour break Britain? This is Talk Breakfast. It is 8:29. Here's a voice note from lovely Judy.
Hello, it's Judy from Altos, West Yorkshire. I think if the polls stay the same, they will sit this one out right to the end, this government. But if the polls stay the same, I think they'll go scorched earth. They'll borrow that much money and bring in that many stupid laws from the EU and tie us more to the EU. And that so that whoever gets in after them is going to have a right mess to clean up before they can do anything like give tax breaks or turn the boat round. That's what I think they'll do. Because the Marxists, they're always right. Thank you.
I think you're right, Judy. I think they will tie a future Prime Minister's hands in knots. It's going to be an economic, legislative and constitutional scorched earth policy, Peter.
Oh, without a doubt. I think Judy said it last week as well. It's a brilliant point, and it's exactly what they will do because they don't know how to campaign. The Labour Party have spent so long, and the left in general, calling everybody a racist, a homophobe, a transphobe, and all this and all the rest of it, that now they're at a real problem because they don't know how to communicate to voters whatever they want to do, so therefore they've got no one to talk to, so therefore they'll just say here's some money, and they'll just keep printing it and printing it and printing it, and that will only kind of cause the financial crisis we're in to get worse. Then you throw in everything else, and it's just like we said, we're just circling the drain at the moment, and I hope we find the plug before we go down it, but I'm not holding my breath.
Judy, what a brilliant voice note. I think that what they will do is they will bring us closer to the EU, which makes it harder for a future Prime Minister to get the benefits of Brexit, of which there are many. They're going to absolutely destroy the economy. There will be no cash for a future Reform UK government. So I think, unfortunately, it's always been my view that if Reform are the answer, and it's an if they are, I think they need a big majority and 2 terms.
Oh, 4.
You think they need 4 terms?
I think they need at least 4 terms to get at least a quarter of the way there.
Crikey.
And I also think, more importantly, we need to understand as a culture the situation that we're in. I think the public need to be actually have to understand the dire economic situation that we're in. This isn't just, kind of the small boats thing or anything. It is a matter of every single policy has broken, every single department is broke, and we really don't have any money to just keep throwing around and wasting on nonsense.
Yes, the business model of the UK is broken.
Oh, yes. The idea that
the business plan.
Yes.
If you were on Dragon's Den and you were pitching UK in 2026, good luck with Peter Jones and Deborah Meaden, who always says no anyway.
Yeah, that's true, but she's got no money. But yeah, that's us. We're the Deborah Meaden of Dragon's Den.
What a terrible insult. Please don't swear. It's a family show.
Sorry, I do apologise.
Let's take a voice note from Boz on will Labour break Britain?
Morning, Mark. Breakfast team. Travelling Boz here. Will Labour break Britain? Well, they're halfway through breaking it already. How long they've been? 20 months. Look at the trail of destruction they've left, like a burnt earth policy. So their ambitions is let's wreck the rest of it in the next 3 years and leave whoever comes in a pickup, and people will say, oh, look at the state of the country. Labour do this every 20 years when they get in power. Scorched earth policy. Follow that if you can. No money left. Everyone unemployed. Social services up the wall. Welfare system bankrupt. This is what they do. This must be the final time these sort of people are in power. And the problem we've got now is people are starting to swing across to restore. Can't have that. We need to get the right together, because there's going to be a gathering of the lefties, the wokies, the Green Party, Labour, Liberal Democrats under a guy who's deluded. Always have been their leaders. I think they've always been deluded. But got to be very careful, because this could turn from 3 years into 8. All the best.
Thank you for that, Boz. Well, Peter, I wish we had longer. The last word from you on all of this.
I would say, yes, the right needs to get together. that needs to come with a bit of trust on everybody's sides of this. You know, we all have to put our weapons down and start aim them in one direction for a change, and stop trying to take each other out. Stop the petty childishness. Stop calling each other names, and understand that if we work together, we can actually maybe save the country. We will not do that if we keep arguing amongst ourselves and calling everybody this and that and the other and being obsessed with fringe issues when we literally have the biggest financial crisis this country will ever see. And it's only going to get worse. We have to tune in and buckle in and actually get some work done, because the amount of turnaround is astronomical. We have to help each other out when we can, more now than ever.
Peter Barnes is the only man in the country that did not need that extra hour in bed, because he's a dynamo. Can I tell you, he never sleeps, right?
Yes, that's why I'm 35 and look like this.
He has a bunk bed here at the studios.
Yes.
He eats raw liver from the fridge and uses some kind of cryogenic chamber, not dissimilar to that of Michael Jackson, but that's where the similarities between the two men ends. Peter, you are a rock star of talk.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Brilliant to have you on the show.
I hope I didn't ruin anybody's day.
Not at all, because we need the truth, and that's why we're here, and that's the truth, even if it hurts. Folks, so much more to come, and you are listening to Talk Breakfast. It is 8:35. Don't go anywhere.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to Talk Breakfast, and how about this? 4 people a day are now referred to anti-terror programme, the Prevent programme, for extreme right-wing views. Twice as many as for Islamic extremism. Are the so-called far right really the problem facing this country? Have we got armed cops at Christmas markets because of the alleged far right? Have we got barriers on pedestrianised city centres because of the alleged far right? Do we have journalists afraid to publish an image of the Prophet Muhammad because of the far right? Do we have school teachers who showed inappropriate religious materials in the classroom as an educational tool, who are now on the run because of the far right? Let's get the views of a good friend of mine, the brilliant comedian who's on tour at the moment, Leo Kurz. Hi, Leo.
Hi, Mark. How you doing?
Very well. Can you tell me about this mythical far right? Who are they and where do they live?
Well, Mark, I've got to be honest. I think it's you and me.
Okay.
I think it's us. And the thing that worries me about Prevent now coming down on 4 far-right people a day. I mean, I can't remember when the last far-right terror attack was, when the last time far-right British men flew planes into skyscrapers or blew up kids at a pop concert. The worrying thing about this is it means that Prevent is now being used as a political pressure group. Is being used as a tool to oppress anybody who's got political opinions that the government, the Labour government, doesn't like. So it's not dealing with terror anymore. We know this because there isn't any far-right terrorism. I'm sorry, Prevent. Sorry to for you to give the reason to shut that department down. But we just don't have any far-right terrorism. There are people getting more interested in far-right ideas, but purely because the supposed far-right seem to be the only people with any productive, constructive solutions to what's happening. All the left can offer is, well, we must keep importing more Islamists. We must fill the country with Islamists. We must bow and scrape and appease them and allow them to do whatever they want and arrest anybody who complains about it. I mean, that's a nonsensical approach to Islamic terror. And the supposed far right are the people who are like, wait a minute, maybe we shouldn't be importing and encouraging this vicious, barbarous ideology. I mean, look at the attacks we've had recently. The Manchester synagogue attack, the David Amos being stabbed, the foiled attack where there was guys with guns. Britain is now even a net exporter of terrorism. The Texas synagogue attack was carried out by a guy from, I think it was a guy from Blackburn. I mean, when I say Blackburn, I don't think he could trace his family DNA back to the Magna Carta. You know what I mean?
No, that's right. That's why you get headlines like Blackburn man plots terror attack.
Yeah, and it's some guy who looks like a goat herder.
Yeah, a goat herder, exactly right. It's not a Welsh choir boy, is it? And the thing is, we've seen, haven't we, and you call it out brilliantly on X, Leo, with your absolutely compelling X account, that you can interchange the word far right with racist. Everyone's far right, everyone's racist now.
Yeah, and it seems to me to be a dog whistle for basically any white guy who's concerned about his country. And we've seen this when the police go and raid people's houses. The Free Speech Union have done a great job of revealing some of the terrible things that have happened. Like Alison Pearson, when she was visited by the police over some perfectly legitimate comments she'd made. Guys that were carrying Pakistan flags and flags of a political group in Pakistan that's definitely got some anti-Semitic beliefs. She criticised them, and she was visited by the police for hate crime. And we've seen other cases like that, like a guy who was visited by the police and they said, "Oh, you've got Brexity books," because he had a Douglas Murray book. I'm sorry, everybody. Douglas Murray should be on the school curriculum. Everybody should be reading Douglas Murray right now. This Douglas Murray is one of the guys who knows what's happening, knows the direction of travel, knows what happened in the Middle East, what happened in Iran and Lebanon, and knows that it could happen here. And we need to start waking up to that. But anybody who does is condemned as far right.
Well, going back to your X feed, I've got to say that you're always calling out, what's racist now and what's far right now. So I thought I'd bring you up to speed on the latest things that are allegedly racist and far right. Are you ready for this, Leo?
Yeah.
We almost need a background music, but the countryside, right? The countryside is far right. Knitting, apparently. Mathematics. Liking your country. Getting to work on time. And passing exams. All of those things are far right. So be careful.
It's so nonsensical. And they're basically just taking anything that's, a hallmark of civilization. If you're doing something, if you've got behaviours that will allow a country to prosper and a civilization to exist, then, if you're... I bet the next thing's going to be if you're listening to your phone on the bus with headphones instead of just listening to it through the speaker, you're an evil far-right white supremacist bigot.
That's exactly right. It's far right not to punch an old lady because you're having a mental health episode.
Yeah.
I mean, you couldn't make it up. I mean, Leo, the world has changed a lot since we were teenagers, hasn't it?
Yeah, in those 5 years.
I mean, honestly, it's we entered the comedy circuit at a similar time, and there was really just sort of no particular national political conversation going on. You'd have sort of a couple of Tory governments, then Labour would get in, they'd mess up, then the Tories would come in, and there was a kind of boring cyclical nature to it. I mean, now you've got the Greens, who are likely to replace Labour in London in the May elections. This, of course, is a sort of pro-Islamist party that believes in open borders. What a strange time to be alive.
Yeah, and if anybody's worried about the rise of terrorism and people who give support and succor to terrorists, they should be looking at the far left. I mean, look at the Green Party. They're following the same pattern as we've seen in the Middle East. In Iran, the far left and the Islamists allied to overthrow the Shah and bring about this wonderful Islamist socialist regime that we've had for 50 years, 47 years.
Yeah.
And of course, when the far left need to wake up to this, because in Iran, when they helped the Islamists into power, after the Islamists came to power, the far left turned around to the Islamists and said, "Oh, Mr. Ayatollah, can we have our queer vegan poetry cafes now?" And the Ayatollah was like, "No, actually, we're gonna execute you, because now that you've fulfilled your purpose as our useful idiots, we don't actually agree with all. We don't want all your LGBTQ stuff. We don't want the rainbow lanyards. We don't want fat women with green hair. We don't want that. We're gonna hang you from cranes." And they did. And this is what Green Party voters are going to realise. I think there's such arrogance on the left in Britain to assume that this pattern that's happened across the Middle East and other parts of the world could never happen here, that there's something special about Britain that would stop Islamism ever taking over and inflicting a barbarous regime on us like that. I don't see what's so different about Britain. I think people are pretty much the same, and I think it's going to happen here. And people on the left are the ones that, guys like us will be fine under Islamism. We'll get some extra wives. It'll be grand.
Yeah, that's exactly right, because we're not trans and we're not woke, and I mean, that's the great irony. It's amazing how the progressive left have embraced this ultra-conservative, medieval, sexist, homophobic ideology. You couldn't make it up, Leo.
Yeah, and it's just based on their opposition to capitalism and their opposition to Western civilization. So because the Islamists and the far left both loathe Western civilization, they loathe America, they chant death to the West. It's mad to see, the deputy leader of the Green Party at a rally where people are chanting, where they're venerating the Ayatollah and chanting death to the West. I mean, surely as a basic requirement for a British politician, you shouldn't be chanting for the destruction of Britain. You know what I mean? Can we just have that? Can we just have that one small thing? Just please don't openly despise the West and want to kill us.
Leo, you're an incredible comedian. Your views were mainstream, if anything, centre-left back in the 90s. Now you're radical right and quite a dangerous voice. How is your comedy going down with modern British audiences? Because I've got a feeling there's a big gap between the kind of establishment elite, TV shows, the media, and what the public actually thinks. So how does your comedy go down in the real world among real Brits?
Yeah, honestly, it goes down great. I mean, I was in Rotherham on Friday night. It was the opening leg of my tour, and we had a packed house and absolutely great crowd. And it's not just bigoted Neanderthal white guys with skinheads that come and see me. I mean, they obviously that's the majority of my audience, and thank you very much to all of them for coming. But no, I get a really diverse mix of people, because loads of people are sick of this, and loads of Muslims, loads of British Muslims, loads of people who are immigrants or the sons and daughters of immigrants are really concerned about Britain, really concerned about the direction of travel, and they want to have a laugh at all this stuff as well. It seems to be just a small cabal of middle-class Oxbridge lefties who run the BBC and run the world of culture, who have a stick up their bottom about all this and don't want anybody making fun of anything to do with culture or racial politics or whatever. I know a Green Party guy genuinely said that if Hitler was around today, he'd come to see my comedy show, he'd come to see my tour. Like, I'm sorry, but if Hitler was around today, Hitler was a vegan, a failed art student who blamed all of his problems on rich people and Jews. If Hitler was around today, he'd be at the Green Party conference.
Well, that's exactly right. Called himself a National Socialist, didn't he? Leo, your tour is selling out, so I'm going to urge my audience to get tickets while they're available. LeoKurse.com. That's Kearse, Leo Kurse. Check out his brilliant channel on YouTube as well, which goes viral about every 10 minutes. Leo, we'll catch up soon. More power to you. Thank you for joining us. Next up, are Europe waking up to mass immigration? I might have some good news for you. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome to Down the Local, the show that goes from pub to pub across the country, speaking to the punters about the subjects driving us all nuts at the moment.
That's Rachel Reeves, Rachel Thieves, Rachel McCown.
I don't really know Meghan Markle. I know Meghan Markle's from Suits, and that's about it.
I don't know about anyone else, and I don't know where this is going. I have 0% beers, and I feel
Raising the flag, I think, is symptomatic of this desperation.
Is public transport good value for money?
No, it isn't.
You really don't like speaking to people.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Is Europe waking up to the true cost of mass unchecked immigration? Well, this is a story for you. Austria, Germany, the Netherlands, Denmark and Greece have formed what's been called a deportation coalition. And here's the story. They say they want plans to have migrant deportation return centres developed before the end of 2026. Because let me tell you that if you think the UK is a victim of mass unchecked immigration, both legal and immigration illegally, then you ain't seen nothing yet. What's happening in Italy, in France, in Spain is an utter catastrophe. Let's get reaction now from the brilliant political theorist and broadcaster Ralph Schirlhammer. Hello, Ralph. Guten Tag.
Hello, Mark. Good to be on again. How are you doing?
I'm very well. It's been far too long. Has Europe finally woken up?
Well, I mean, it's a very ironic to say, yes, that after 10 years, they form a coalition that tells us what they want to do by the end of the year. We have heard these ideas and these programs. It's very similar to the Rwanda plan in the UK for almost a decade now. You could even go further, because don't forget, migration has been an issue in the UK and in Europe since the 1970s in continental Europe, and I would say since Enoch Powell's Rivers of Blood speech in the UK in 1968. So when we say they are finally waking up, we say that after 60 years, apparently they are somewhat willing to announce that they might be ready to take an action at some point in the future. So no, I don't. To be quite honest, I don't place too many hopes in the current ruling elite and the current governing class to do anything about this problem.
How has mass immigration, both legal and illegal, impacted countries like Germany and Austria, Ralph?
Well, I give you a very concrete number. I mean, about 10, 15 years ago, in Germany, you had at best, I mean, at best is the wrong term, but at worst, let's put it this way, 1 or 2 gang rapes per year. Now we have around 788 gang rapes per year. So that's almost twice a day. So from 2 gang rapes a year, you're now up to 2 gang rapes a day. And if you look at the statistics, I mean, you people in the UK know this very well, right? The perpetrators of these crimes recruit themselves from a very specific subset, let's say, of migration. I mean, when we talk about migration, mass migration and otherwise, we're not talking about the Austrian guy coming to the UK. Like, every one of your viewers knows precisely what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And they are right. That this is one of these cases where the gut feeling of the population is 100% correct. And it's sometimes us, I think, who lack the precision in the way we describe it.
What about the direction of travel politically? Austria, Germany and Italy, for example, maybe France too. Are they shifting right, and are they becoming more sceptical about current levels of immigration?
Well, if you listen to the public announcements, supposedly they have been skeptical, as I said before. They've been skeptical for the last 20 years.
Right.
But it's not about what they say, it's about what they do. And if you look at the numbers, you know, Austria is a very good case study here. About 9% of the population had a foreign background in the year 2000. Now in 2026, it's around 25%. So
That's
what's
shocking.
the point of... Yeah, you know, it's like the guy saying, you know, I'm going to stop smoking any day now, while he opens up another pack and lights another cigarette. And this is exactly the situation we're in. I believe you if you show me some action that I can actually measure. And if I measure it at the moment, everything points into the opposite direction.
Austria is one of the most civilized, greatest civilizations in history. It's an elite-level European country. Art, culture, business. It's a remarkable country. Some of the greatest geniuses of history come from Austria, not least Mozart himself. So you were telling me that a few years ago it was 9% were foreign-born nationals living in Austria. It's now 25%. Is there any argument that that has improved life for Austrians to have so many more people from overseas? Are there any benefits at all?
Well, it depends on how you break it down. And I think, again, the same is true for the UK. If you take, let's say, the German migrants, the EU migrants, if you take, let's say, the migrants that come from culturally adjacent places, I think there absolutely are some positive impacts.
Polish plumbers, Lithuanian plasterers.
Listen, yes, absolutely, because the numbers are usually so small that if you have a Polish family moving to Vienna within 1 or 2 generations, they are culturally assimilated, right? They might be maybe not ethnically, but culturally are assimilated. The main problem is and remains with migration, primarily from the Muslim world. I know, we're not supposed to say this. It's anti-Muslim racism, it's Islamophobia, blah, blah, blah. But it's simply a statistical fact. I mean, we have the numbers when it comes to representation, whether, how much do they bring into the economy, how much do they take out of the economy, and what's their impact on crime statistics. And these numbers are all very, very negative. I mean, we have to make this distinction, right, between the German immigrant and the immigrant from the Maghreb or some other place.
Were you born in Austria, Ralph?
Yes, I was.
Does it break your heart to see what's happened to the country and how it's changed without anyone voting for that change?
It breaks my heart everywhere. When I go to London, it breaks my heart. When I go, when I live in Austria, when I go to Germany, when I go to France, it breaks my heart. The very idea that now in some of the most beautiful areas historically, like Saint-Denis in France, is now basically a no-go area. Yes, that breaks my heart. Because the point is, and never forget this, Mark, with mass migration, and you see this now with also the defacement of statues of Winston Churchill in the UK, we are not just losing our future and our present, we are also losing our past. If you can no longer celebrate the country's history, if you can no longer in a positive way remember a country's history, what they take away from you is not just your future, they're also taking away from you your past, and I think that's terrible.
Well, I think the worst example, Ralph, and there are a trillion, would be armed cops at Christmas markets across Europe. If that doesn't tell you there's a problem, nothing will.
Yeah, but again, it's not just Europe. I mean, we now live in a situation where the government is no longer the representative of, a homogeneous nation. It's basically becoming the administrator of different ethnic interests. We are becoming tribal societies again, and I find this absolutely terrible. I don't want this, right? I want Austria to be distinctively Austrian. I want England to be distinctively English. And it's at the end, it's the people and not the name on the map.
Ralph, how can people find out more about your work?
Oh, just Google my name.
Well, listen, I tell you, it'll be the best thing you do today. Ralph Schoellhammer, Schoellhammer. Ralph, we'll catch up soon. It's been far too long. Thank you for the truth bombs and the compelling commentary. Folks, so much more to come. Next up, Dolan's Dispatch. Don't miss it.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Three minutes past 9. That's right, folks. Not 3 minutes past 8, not 3 minutes past 10. We've lost an hour's sleep, but let me tell you, we're coming in hot. Welcome to Talk Breakfast. Mark Dolan with you until 10 a.m. And I'm back for a special one-off appearance on Talk Breakfast tomorrow. So do join me from 6 a.m. tomorrow in for the brilliant Jeremy Kyle. Alex Phillips is up at 10 a.m. I should say. See, I don't know what time it is. Who knows what's going on? But breaking this morning, Starmer opens the floodgates to mass immigration as the PM plans to row back on tightening of rules around indefinite leave to remain. This could come with a bill in the region of £250 billion. Meanwhile, Armageddon is predicted for Labour at the local elections. They're expected to lose every one of the 50 seats in Sunderland alone, with most going to Reform UK, and they're going to lose London to the Greens. Be afraid, be very afraid. And the BBC are desperately looking for a new pair of hosts for Strictly. And the best person they've got at the moment is Miranda Hart, who hasn't been on telly for 10 years. So they're desperate. Your nominations, please, to replace the old Tess Daly and Claudia Winkleman on Strictly. Who do you recommend? 03444991000. Text the word talk in your message to 87222. You can leave us a voice note as well. Some people are suggesting Jim Davidson, which I think is a brilliant idea. The man's a genius. Maybe our own Julia Hartley-Brewer. She's got the brains, she's got the talent, she's got the looks. And she dances around politicians every day in that mid-morning slot. So much to get through, folks. You can hear us on DAB+, in-app and online. But I recommend you watch today's Dolan's Dispatch because I've got quite a lot of video clips for you. All you got to do, go to YouTube, search Talk, and up we pop. As the saying goes, let's talk. And as always, at this time, every Friday, Saturday and Sunday, it's time for Dolan's Dispatch. What a balls up. Early bath please for the chairman of Ipswich Town Football Club, Mark Ashton, who's made a bizarre, grovelling apology to staff and fans for the great crime of welcoming Reform UK leader Nigel Farage to the stadium. Here he is being interviewed in the last 24 hours, consumed with grief about his terrible mistake.
This has been a very difficult week for all of us.
Yeah, a difficult week indeed. What's happened? Has there been an outbreak of cholera in the dressing room?
The staff are hurting, elements of the fan base are hurting, and so are elements of our local community.
So these elements, right, what elements would they be? People who feel unsafe with opinions different to their own, illiberal ideologues that don't believe in democracy. Yeah, let's do a statement trying to keep those people happy. See how you get on, big man. Feeding the woke crocodile. I think you'll discover it'll eat you up in the end.
And that upsets me immensely. And for that, unreservedly, I want to apologise and say I'm sorry.
Can you understand that strength of feeling and the anger that supporters are feeling?
Yes, I understand that supporters and elements of the community are angry.
Can you understand how upset people are? Do you understand how angry? Yes, I understand how angry people are. Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because if I was an Arsenal fan, and I'm not an Arsenal fan, I am a Spurs fan, which is the #1 team in the country. God, I love Tottenham. But if I was an Arsenal fan, I'd be rather angry at having to look at Keir Starmer's gormless face every other Saturday, living it large in a free 5-star box at the Emirates provided by the club. Is Sir Keir Starmer not a leading politician? Is that not divisive too? Given that he's a politician, Sir Keir Starmer, who, unlike Nigel Farage, has actually been in power and has done huge damage to the country, then surely it's worse to welcome Starmer into the Emirates every other Saturday. Because the bottom line is he's a terrible politician. Keir Starmer hasn't smashed the gangs. He's called anyone worried about border control far right. He's destroyed the economy. He wants to scrap jury trials and free speech. He's handing over the Chagos Islands. He's torn up the special relationship with America. I'm quite angry that Keir Starmer appears at the Arsenal stadium. Where's my apology for that? Maybe Stan Kroenke, the owner of Arsenal, should go on TV and do a tearful apology about Starmer's appearance at the Emirates Stadium. Now, to be fair, I've actually featured a lot of clips of Starmer on this show. That's right. Unfortunately, I trigger a lot of you by running clips of Keir Starmer and talking about Keir Starmer. So here is my apology live on yesterday's show, apologising for platforming Keir Starmer on Talk Breakfast in the company of the Daily Express's star columnist JJ Anasiobi. Here's my apology to all of you. I've got an apology to make. Where's my tissues? I don't normally enjoy the show that much, but I need tissues. But I'd like to apologise to my viewers and listeners for running clips of Sir Keir Starmer. I'm sorry. A man that's caused inflation to go up to almost double the Bank of England's target. The man that's reawoken the old enemy of unemployment, especially youth unemployment, with the party of working people aren't in work anymore. I'd like to apologise for the open borders having smashed the gangs. 70,000 illegals in a year and a half. I've doubled down on net zero during an energy crisis. We're more woke than ever. We forgot what a woman is. And by the way, we've torn up the special relationship with America, a country that we're frankly toast without. I'm sorry. The end. I do hope that apology was enough. Do you see my point, folks? The foolish, spineless chairman of Ipswich Town FC apologises for letting Nigel Farage enter his stadium, but we've got to look at Starmer in the Emirates every other week in a free box. And what about this? I'm so confused, right? This is a photograph of Sir Keir Starmer campaigning in the run-up to the last general election at the Bristol Rovers Stadium with a special Labour supporting strip with the word change on the back of it. Where's the grovelling apology from the chairman of Bristol Rovers for that painful and upsetting misjudgment? Or what about this one? Next one, Davis, when you're ready. Look at this. The Labour Member of Parliament for Ipswich, Jack Abbott, given £3,000 worth of free tickets to an Ed Sheeran gig at, wait for it, the Ipswich Stadium. Wait a minute, I thought we didn't want politicians being invited to football clubs and getting the red carpet treatment. I'm so confused. Let's go back now to the spineless chairman of Ipswich.
And I also understand that we have lessons to learn because mistakes have been made which have caused harm and distress to parts of our local community. And as the chairman of the club, I take full responsibility for those mistakes and full responsibility for making sure that those lessons are learned and learned quickly.
How do we do that? How do we learn those lessons?
How do we do that? How do we learn those lessons? Who on earth is that woke interviewer? How do we do that? How do we learn those lessons? Well, here's his answer.
I think a prime example is the board. Full board of directors are now reviewing the policy in regards to how we engage with local politicians and political parties.
Translation, we can have any politician unless they're right-wing.
I start with I'm sorry because I've been at this football club for over 5 years now.
Yes, you've been there 5 years, and I'm afraid, big man, you're getting sacked in the morning because the vast majority of Ipswich Town supporters live in the real world. They're experiencing the consequences of mass immigration. They're experiencing the inflationary policies of a socialist government. They're experiencing unemployment. Their kids can't get a job. Youth unemployment, the highest in the whole of Europe, a broken country. Our acceleration to the bottom under this Labour government. Overall, I'm amused by this story because the intolerant illiberal lefties who are triggered by the very mention of Nigel Farage's name don't know what's coming in May of this year at the local elections, and more importantly, what's likely to happen at the next general election. Now, I get it. Nigel Farage is not everyone's cup of tea. He's not everyone's bottle of pitchside Lucozade, but he's a mainstream centre-right politician who's ahead in the polls and should be welcomed anywhere and everywhere alongside the leaders of all the main political parties. That is what a democracy looks like. So the club chairman of Ipswich Town FC needs to be sent off and take a long walk down the tunnel, stick him on the transfer list and show the whole of the woke mob the red card. 03444991000, your reaction. 9:13, it's Talk Breakfast. Paul is in Devon, and Paul, I've got a simple question for you this morning. Labour are going to cling to power for the next 3 years. Will they break Britain?
Well, Mark, I think you need to understand that Britain is already broken. It's been broken for quite a while, and the warnings were there in the 60s with Enoch Powell, and nobody took any notice. But the thing is as one of your Dolan's dispatches on a Sunday morning pointed out, the Fabian Society is now pulling the strings in the background, and they have been for a long, long time. You only have to look at our country as it stands now. Our borders are broken, our military is broken, our health service is broken, our education service is now a Marxist indoctrination service. Our roads are broken, our industry has collapsed. We can't farm anymore, apart from farming solar panels. We can't feed ourselves. We cannot provide heat for pensioners. Where is this country going to go? That is what we've got to ask ourselves. Is this next election that's coming up going to be won by Mr. Farage? I think not. I think that there's going to be a lot of vote rigging and a lot of gerrymandering going on here. And you only have to look at Tower Hamlets as an example. You know, we are now at the precipice, and where people start talking about civil war, I think that is what is going to happen. We are going to go to a civil war stage, and I think the government is wanting that to happen, and they're ready there with the Civil Contingencies Act, and then next thing, it'll be lockdown 2.
And Paul, if there is a civil war, as you fear there will be, what will that look like? How will it manifest?
Well, basically, look at what's happening now. People can't really afford to put petrol or fuel in their cars to get to work. Food is becoming scarce. Shelves are getting empty. People are getting angry. There is going to be a backlash, and it is coming. There's a big war coming. People can see it. I hear people talking about it, even in the supermarket. Prices are through the roof. You know, it's okay if you've got a spare few pennies, but there's a lot of people have got nothing. And the thing is that they're looking that the politicians, and you look at the scandals that have erupted in this country, let alone the Epstein files, we are very far down the queue. The government basically in this country declared war on its own people, and I think they declared war on us a long time ago, not just Starmer. This happened before with the Tories and the Labour before that. We are now at, as you say, on a precipice, and I think that the way things are going, we are going to end up in another lockdown. Money is tight. People are starting to feel, a bit hungry. You look, we can't afford to feed ourselves. The farmland is being covered with windmills and solar panels.
Yeah. We've got no energy supply. We're reliant on foreign imports.
That's correct. And what happens when that dries up? Because sooner or later, France might say, well, we can't send you any more electricity. We need it for ourselves. We are now we're there. It's only going to take a spark. And I think that the way the government is going, they want the Iran war, they want the Ukraine war, they don't want it to end because it is basically serving their interests. We shouldn't be in the Ukraine war, there shouldn't be a war with Iran. But you look at these things and it seems to be driven to look towards an end point, and I think that it's towards another lockdown, and they're going to basically push and push until the people push back. you get the trouble in the streets, and it will start at one of these protests, and I'm quite sure that's what will happen.
Well, Paul, there are certainly lots of people who think that perhaps the government want an economic meltdown because then they can have an emergency budget, an authoritarian regime, roll out undiluted socialism. But what would you say, Paul, briefly, if you can, to those who would argue that what you've said is a wild conspiracy theory?
Well, take a look around you. Tell me what works. Tell me that there's law and order. Tell me that the health service is 100%. Tell me that you can go and get a doctor's appointment when you want.
Yeah.
Tell me that you can drive down the road without smashing the wheel off your car. Tell me that when the kids go to school, they're getting education, not indoctrination. You know, people, I think, have buried their heads in the sand for too long. And yes, you're quite right. As I said this morning, people are beginning to wake up. But is it too late?
Is it, briefly, Paul, because I've got to get to Pete in Chester, is it too late? Can Britain be saved? We've got to wait 3 years, probably. Can Britain be saved?
I think so, but we need politicians of an iron will. And I think Mr. Farage and his associates, I don't think they've got that iron will. You look at Rupert Lowe and Ben Habib, they were two people who he would need on his side, and he's pushed them out, and I couldn't figure out why until I look at it and I think, well, is he another controlled opposition?
Wow. Well, listen, that is a damning thought. Paul, call me again soon. What a brilliant call. I wish we had longer. Have a good Sunday, Paul. Peter is in Chester. Peter, Labour are likely going to cling on to power for the next 3 years. Will they break Britain?
Right, Mark. I think it's clearly evident that Labour are following a scorched earth policy here. OK? The next government will face the biggest challenge in a generation. OK?
Yeah.
They're going to have, whichever party gets in, let's just look at, let's take the view that regarding reform. There has to be a Tory reform coalition, because the thought of a Green Labour coalition government is frightening. Okay? The gentleman on the previous call talked about Ben and Rupert. The fear there is they will split the right-wing vote. Which is worrying. I think they need to, I don't know, they seem pretty poles apart at the moment, but there needs to be a right-wing coalition here to fight the left-wing coalition, which is going to happen.
Pete, when you said that you're worried about a Labour Green Party coalition at the next election, maybe with support from the SNP and the Lib Dems, why do you describe a left-wing alliance like that as frightening?
Because of their policies, Mark. Because of their policies. It's as simple as that. You've only got to look at Zach Polanski. I mean, you couldn't make it up, Mark. You couldn't make it up. This guy, they're starting to get quite a lot of influence, and yet you look at his policies. It's madness.
He wants to welcome illegal immigrants into the country. You will have net zero on acid. You'll have more wokery, more debt, more borrowing. He thinks, Pete, that he can sit down with Vladimir Putin and convince him to disarm.
Well, he's delusional. The guy's delusional. But this guy could have some influence. This guy could be... How have we ended up here, Mark? How have we ended up in this situation?
I think because the establishment shifted left. And I think you have to blame Tony Blair and then the Conservatives, Pete. I think that we hit the slippery slope around 1990 when Margaret Thatcher was dispatched from power, our last true Conservative Prime Minister.
The last politician with conviction, with drive... You know, that is lacking.
And we know she wasn't perfect, Pete. We know she wasn't perfect.
But
lover or hater, you know, you don't have to agree with everyone to admire them as a leader. You'd be turning in a grave, Mark, looking at what's happened to this country. The standard of politicians. I heard Malcolm Rifkin the other day on Jeremy. What a fantastic orator. What a fantastic politician. These guys couldn't tie these guys' shoelaces, quite frankly, what we've got today.
I mean, you compare David Lammy or Yvette Cooper to Sir Malcolm Rifkin. I mean, OMG, Pete.
Yeah, David Lammy, who thought was it Henry VII was before after Henry VIII. Yeah.
Oh, he's a real mastermind. Pete, listen, I'm going to tell you, you got 10 right answers and no pauses, no wrong answers. Pete, call me again soon. It was an important call. That's going to go viral. So watch this space, Pete. You're about to become a celebrity. Dean, can you clip that up, please? This is a show, by the way, that goes non-stop viral. The reason why is because of you, because of your truth bombs. You get it. I get it. Producer Dean gets it, even on a hangover. But those who govern us do not. More to come. Labour's shocking immigration betrayal next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
I don't always enjoy the Mirror newspaper because I think they're so woke and they're so far up the Prime Minister's backside, a man that's destroying the country. But they've got an interesting story in the paper today, and it's about the Prime Minister's plans to soften immigration reforms in order to see off the threat of the radical left Green Party. Now, this relates to indefinite leave to remain. You're looking at about 2.6 million people that came to the country during the so-called Boris wave from 2021. The Home Office told the then Prime Minister Boris Johnson we needed these people to fill gaps in care homes, in the NHS, fruit pickers, you name it, because during the pandemic, lots of other people who were here went home to their countries around the world, and particularly the EU. So he was told, if we don't bring these people in, the public services will crash and we'll have hyperinflation. Well, he was lied to by the Blob and by the Home Office. We're now stuck with those people. Shabana Mahmood wants to do something brilliant. That's right. It's a Labour Home Secretary that wants to do a great thing, and I'm going to applaud her, which is to make people wait 10 years, not 5, for indefinite leave to remain. They've got to have a job and an income. If they've got a high income, they're fast-tracked. Thank you very much. They can't have a criminal record. They must speak the language to a high standard. Keir Starmer is going to tear up that plan to keep the left of his party and the crazy Greens happy. Let's get reaction from someone that hasn't got a crazy bone in his body. Served in the military and a former top cop, Mike Neville. Hello, Mike.
Yes, good morning, Mark.
This is the ultimate immigration betrayal. Finally, a very rare good idea from this Labour government, and it ain't going to happen.
Yes, it's scandalous, isn't it? And I think we need to stop talking about left and right here. What he's faced with is working class voters in the North and the Midlands revolting against the Labour Party that they've been loyal to many, many years, and they're turning to reform. And he's also faced with sort of southern softies, Islington dinner party types who are now going to go to the Greens. And Starmer himself, you know, as far back as 1988, he was announcing that immigration law is inherently racist and whatever else. And if we remember his, zippy-like speaks about smashing the gangs, the reason he talked about smashing the gangs is because it suited his agenda, because the gang leaders, of course, villainous, but the people coming on the votes are lovely doctors and engineers, and we should welcome them. And, you've even got Rayner saying it's un-British to enforce borders. It's a very bizarre case, but it is also, it's nothing to do with the nation. Mark Starmer promised us that he would govern for the nation. He's governing to keep himself and his wicked cabal in power.
I've got skin in the game. You've got skin in the game. My audience have got skin in the game here, Mike. I have 2 children. Likely they will have kids as well, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, if I'm lucky enough to see them. The concern I've got, given that I've got kids who I love very much, is they're going to pick up the bill for this open borders policy. The Centre for Policy Studies have estimated the cost long-term of giving the Boris wave indefinitely to remain. And let's be clear about this. This is low-skilled workers, many of whom won't work at all, who are going to be dependent on state handouts the rest of their life. If you settle the Boris wave, 2.6 million people, the cost, Mike, £250 billion.
Yeah, it's quite incredible, isn't it? We had all those lies, didn't we, from The Guardian and the like, telling us that immigrants brought all this money. And of course, they're based it on like a top doctor or a top engineer. And the vast majority are nothing of the sort. But I think it's more than money, Mark. I've got a son, about 3 daughters, and I've got 2 grandchildren. It's the girls I fear for the most. I've said this before. They live. 2 of my youngest daughters live near Bournemouth, and I've got to warn them about strange men. It's the threat to girls of these people who are allowing in, often who come from cultures that don't respect women. We know that the Afghanis are 20 times more likely to be arrested for sex assaults than a British-born person. And why would we allow people like that in the country? And the other mad thing as well is that women are far more likely to vote for parties that allow this to happen. It's absolutely crazy what's going on.
Well, that's right. Women they are the turkeys that have voted for Christmas, just like the trans people cheering on the Green Party, except that if they lived in Kabul or if they lived in Gaza, they'd be chucked off the nearest bridge.
It's absolute lunacy. And what are we doing to this nation? I was listening to your caller before. We're leaving behind a complete mess that our children and grandchildren will not only have to pay for, but they'll be far more at risk of being victims of crime. And I've said this statistic before. In 1951, there was 150 robberies in London in the entire year. There's now 150 robberies every 1 or 2 days. What has changed since 1951? These politicians have tried to hide these truths for far too long. And as I say, I've said it before as well, thank you to talk that we are allowed to debate these things, because in times past, 10 years ago, we would have all been shut down as wicked racists for even trying to mention this. And that would have been by the Tories as well as Labour.
Now, Mike, you're a reasonable and even-handed and fair man. So shall we play a little bit of devil's advocate? Is there any argument that actually immigration has benefited the country because you've got people of different skills? It's been a positive influence on our culture. Let's remember that we drink tea because of the Commonwealth. That's the same reason why the most popular dish in the country is the chicken tikka masala. Is there a danger of demonising immigrants?
I don't think so. I mean, Douglas Murray, you know, the great writer, he makes a good point. How many people from, say, Somalia do you need in this country to enjoy Somalian food? You know, we have curries in this country because the British Army were in India. Every Wednesday in the army, you had a curry. That's not because people came here, it's because the British went to India and we like curries. Now, there are vast numbers of doctors and engineers who are immigrants, and they have fitted in, but there are whole groups of people who are determined to bring their way of life here and not to change it. And we have ridiculous nonsense in this government that it's a two-way street. Well, if you come to live in Britain, you should fit in with the British ways and not bring things from countries, particularly things that make women a threat. That is not good enough.
It sounds to me, Mike, that you believe the key thing with immigration is the quality of immigration and the quantity. It's not the principle of immigration that bothers you. It's those two themes, quality and quantity.
Well, it's who you let in your house, isn't it? Would you let somebody you didn't know, you had no idea who they were and what they'd done in the past, into your house to stay when you've got children? And the other thing that strikes me about this refugee stuff is that, you know, a few years ago, one of my colleagues at work, he had some trouble at home and he didn't have anywhere to go. So I said, oh, come and live with me. And he came and lived with me for about 3 months, and I looked after him I tried to be the good Samaritan.
Yeah.
And when the situation had improved, he went back and found his own place. So I can't understand that, you know, you flee to this country because there's a war wherever. Yes, we're right. We're a Christian nation, good Samaritans, and we'll help you. But it doesn't mean we're going to help you forever, because once it's safe, you should go back to your country. And the other thing we do as well is we steal, like, doctors and stuff from places like India, and we take people from the Philippines, and we steal their people who should be developing their nation. How is it we used to have an empire and we provided doctors and nurses to cover the whole empire and this country? How is it now we're told we have to import people? The government have been happy to see our own people, some of the underclass, be lazy and idle, and then shipping people to do the work. What crazy person would pay somebody to lie in bed and then bring somebody else in? You've got to pay more money for them to work. The whole policies have been absolute lunacy, but they're not lunacy to somebody who's obsessed with multiculturalism, who thinks multiculturalism is a religion that they've got to follow. So it doesn't matter of the consequences because they follow it with religious zeal. And, you know, I always say, Mark, these people never sleep. They're determined to have their wicked dream, and they will keep doing it.
The left never sleep. That is the catchphrase of the heroic figure that is Mike Neville, who served with distinction in the military and as a retired Scotland Yard detective. Can you imagine being apprehended by Mike Neville, right? Caught shoplifting or drug dealing? Imagine if Mike Neville turns up. Good luck. Good luck. A great ex-copper and an example of where policing has failed so drastically ever since folk like him retired. So much more to come. This is Talk Breakfast.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to Talk Breakfast. Thank you so much for your company. 9:39. I hope you did all right with an hour's less sleep last night. I will say that the old alarm clock was a bit of a rude awakening. What you've got to do now, folks, is you've got to change all the clocks around the house, change your watch as well. The phone normally updates, but make sure you get it right. It is 9:39 a.m. And I'm back tomorrow for one day only, Monday morning, Talk Breakfast, in for the brilliant Jeremy Kyle. Do join me then live in the studio. Speaking of great broadcasters, ex-BBC radio legend Alex Dyke. Hello, Alex.
Good morning, Mark.
You're looking bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and you're wearing a badge, and because my eyesight's not that good, I thought it said baby on board.
No, it says, I love Ringo.
Yeah, because the thing is, right, it's 2026. It could easily be baby on board, because you could probably identify as a pregnant woman, and you'd probably get... I think the BBC would have you back if you came back as a woman, wouldn't they?
Probably would.
Right, if you... Because do you feel... Be honest, and I don't want you to cancel yourself, OK, because we're friends. But
you do. You want me to cancel myself because you want the hits on YouTube.
It's a bit like when someone says, with due respect, they're about to disrespect you, but...
It's from the heart, isn't it? What are you going to say? It's from the heart.
You're an incredibly experienced broadcaster. Do you think that a man of your age and demographic would struggle to get a gig on the BBC now?
Yes, absolutely.
Really?
And it annoys me intensely.
In spite of your CV, which is as long as your arm?
Yeah, absolutely. You know it really deep down, and I know it. And it annoys me because people like you and I started broadcasting in our 20s, and we gained so much experience, and I feel now I'm top of my game, and I've got another 10 great years to go at least.
Minimum.
And I bet you feel the same way. And you and I are big TV fans, and I remember a guy in America who most people in Britain wouldn't be that aware of, called Regis Philbin, but I bet you've heard of him.
A great daytime host, a sort of what would you describe? Was he a Des O'Connor type, or
a cool Des O'Connor? I mean, I love Des O'Connor, but a cool Des O'Connor. America celebrated Regis. They celebrate people later in life. Here, people, well, not the commercial sector as much, but the BBC get jittery. They're chasing a young audience, which they're never going to get. And we can talk about that in...
The only people that watch the BBC are old white people. And that is the group that the BBC detest.
And they are the group that have been paying their licence fee since they left school and set up home. So they've invested in the BBC, and they are now not catered for. Apart from maybe Strictly.
I've got a career plan for you before we get to the new host of Strictly, which is very exciting.
Which won't be you or me.
We need to get you a gig on the BBC. You won't get the gig as 50-something Silver Fox Alex Dyke, OK? So we're going to send you back to the Beeb, right, as Alexa Dyke.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Smart speakers are going to love that. They're going to go off all the time.
You're a lesbian, OK?
OK.
You're a woman of colour.
My name is Dyke.
Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. I mean, you know, it doesn't take a genius to work this one out. There was that movie starring Dustin Hoffman called Tootsie, and this was a male actor that he just couldn't get any work, right? He's an unemployed actor, and then he worked out there were a lot of female parts, so he dressed up as a woman, went to an audition, pretending to be a woman, and gets a part in a soap, right? And does very well. So I think you're going to do a Tootsie.
I know you're mucking around, and I'm happy to go there with you. But I was watching a clip the other day of Mrs. Doubtfire, and it's the clip where they use Aerosmith's "Dude Looks Like a Lady," and I'm thinking, would they make Mrs. Doubtfire now?
Never.
With someone like Rob, and would Aerosmith record a song "Dude Looks Like a Lady"?
No, you've got the same thing with Lola, which is the Kinks song, which I think is about somebody that's a cross-dresser.
Yeah, I saw Duncan Barkus, I think it was on Friday night, talking to Dave Davis of the Kinks on this channel. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. Nobody complained about Lola back in the 70s. Nobody complained about Mrs. Doubtfire in the 1990s, because we all saw it as innocent entertainment. Nobody was trying to offend anybody.
Most definitely not. Well, look, BBC, they've got a small number of hits. The Traitors, the other big one is Strictly. but they are now without a host because Claudia Winkleman and the other one have gone.
Yeah.
And it's critical they get this right, because if they don't have big hits, then they have lost the moral case for the licence fee. And I think they're struggling, because front page of The Sun on Sunday today, apparently their great hope is this lady Miranda.
I know.
Right? Now, I've got no problem with her. I've met her. She's a very nice lady, actually. She's quite talented. I might have to Google her surname, Miranda Hart. She had a TV show. Apparently, producer Dean's got a crush on her.
Really?
Yep.
I didn't know that.
Yep. So anyway, but Miranda Hart. So, okay, she's had a sitcom. She's a talented lady. She's not been on the box for a decade.
No.
Right? Is that the best they've got?
Well, I think the same thing. I mean, I think the thing about Miranda is usually when you talk Marmite, it's people who are quite confrontational, isn't it? But I find her quite Marmite. You either really, really warm to her or you find her irritating.
Yes.
And that's not her fault. That's just her personality. And like you, I'm sure she's a lovely, lovely lady. But the BBC have said today, Mark, in the Sun, well, the Sun are saying that the BBC have said today, there's a double-page feature on it, she would be such a coup for the BBC. I think she wouldn't be a coup if they got Madonna to host
if that's a coup.
She would be a coup.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's been away. She's not been in the best of health for the last few years, but that's all been sorted out now. Apparently, she's a massive fan of Strictly. Strictly bosses are keen to have 3 new presenters. One of them may be Bradley Walsh, who I think is fantastic and very, very likeable. But like Ant and Dec, he's on everything. It's like an Australian soap. If you go from one Australian soap to another, it's the same actors because there's only 12 actors in Australia. And I feel the same with the presenters, that we feel there's only a handful. They want Zoe Ball and Emma Willis as well, apparently. But
I mean, who are these people? Okay, we've probably heard of Zoe Ball, but I don't know who the rest of these people are.
No, nor do I.
What are they looking for? What is the formula here?
Right, they're looking for a female comedian who's going to be great with who's going to be a fan of the show and great with the contestants. But there must be dozens and dozens and dozens of people. And why are we not finding new talent? That's what we should be doing.
Wouldn't that be a nice thing? Well, I've got an idea, and I'm going to pitch Jim Davidson, but in just one moment, because I've got to interrupt our broadcast at 9:46 on a Sunday morning, because we've got a massive growing audience here at Talk and a massive growing audience on Talk Breakfast. You wouldn't believe the number of people that watch this show live on YouTube. And of course, we know the radio ratings are through the roof. And everyone watches and listens to the show, of all colours, races, creeds, opinions, religion, right? We've got one thing in common: common sense. And all ages. And this is a special shout out, producer Dean, to a very special lady. And her name, let me tell you, is Patricia Scanlon. And it's Patricia's birthday today. And Patricia is 102. Now, first of all, Patricia, a massive happy birthday from myself and everyone here at Talk. We're going to blow you a big, massive kiss across the airwaves. Alex Dyke wants to join in with that. Happy birthday to Patricia Scanlon. 102 years of age is an incredible achievement. So you've obviously had your letter from the King. Congratulations. I've got no doubt you've got the energy and spirit of a teenager, but 102 is remarkable. Her lovely, lovely son, David, got in touch with me, and he wanted me to know that she was born in Rathangan in County Kildare. She came over on her own to work in Birmingham and London in the early 50s. She was teased for her accent in the 1950s and also about how she doesn't know how to use a knife and fork. She's old school. According to David, Patricia is God-fearing, hard-working, with respect for herself, for others and her adopted country. The only time she's ever used strong language was when Meghan Markle mocked Queen Elizabeth on the Netflix documentary. There's a mass for Patricia today at 11 a.m. So let me just say to Patricia, may I wish you a very happy birthday, 102 years. Have a great day, and all of our love from everyone here at Talk.
Happy birthday to you.
Brilliant stuff. Well, look, folks, so much more to come. Why Jim Davidson should take over Strictly, that's next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
So it's 9:51. Who should replace Tess Daly and the other one with the fringe, old Claudia Winkleman, off of Strictly? I think it's the BBC's only hope. If they lose Strictly, that's it. They're done. I'm going to suggest that Jim Davidson should take over. And I'll tell you for why, BBC legend Alex Dyke. Jim Davidson is a funny man.
Yeah.
He's an experienced broadcaster. When he was hosting shows like Big Break, which was the snooker-based TV quiz, when he was hosting shows like The Generation Game, he was getting 10, 15, 20 million viewers. He's got a quick wit. He can improvise. He can work with a script. So I'd go Jim Davidson, and then I'd wonder who to partner him with. A few suggestions. What do you think?
Well, okay, there is a problem with Jim.
Go on.
He's a cheeky chappy, and he is very, very funny. But the BBC have airbrushed him from the history of the Generation Game.
No.
So when they do documentaries on the Generation Game now, or look backs, they do Bruce Forsyth, they do Larry Grayson, they do those two comedians who recorded 4 episodes about 6 years ago.
Oh, was that Sue and Mel and Sue?
Yeah,
we
Mel
can
and
barely
Sue.
remember that.
It was dreadful, and the BBC only showed 2 episodes of the 4 they recorded. Jim has asked the BBC if he can have the series that he fronted for his Ustream channel. He's quite willing to pay for them, but the BBC will not give him those for his own channel.
And when he made that show, and I've interviewed Jim a number of times, he's a really nice man. He told me that they used to, he got bored of rehearsals, so they used to have to fish him out of the BBC bar to get him on air. And that tells me that he was a real man, he was a character. And it's shocking to airbrush these people from history. We saw the same with Tommy Cannon, who was Cannonball cancelled from ITV's celebrations. I think it was 75 years. So let's go through some other options. You've got Jim Davidson, maybe paired with Lisa Tarbuck, who's, by the way, another talented presenter that's just left the BBC.
She's disappeared from the BBC, hasn't she? And it's hard to... Well, it's not hard to work out whether she jumped or she was pushed. It looks like she was pushed.
But that was a very popular show on Radio 2,
It was
wasn't
a really popular Saturday. She'd done that show for about 11 years. It was very, very popular. I don't know why they got rid of Lisa Tarbuck at all.
No, the other options, I suppose, to take over Strictly, you could have Denise Van Outen from The Big Breakfast. She was pretty good, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was good.
A bit saucy, a bit naughty, maybe.
Gabby Roslin.
Yeah, Gabby, good friend of mine. She'd be very good. I agree. What about Sue Cook from Crime Watch? I think she's still got the chops.
Yeah, I could see.
She could bring a little weight.
I like to. What about Valerie Singleton?
Oh, that's not a bad shout. Is she still around?
Yeah, I'm doing a day.
Is she 102, like Patricia?
I'm doing a Blue Peter Day with Peter Purvis and Valerie Singleton.
You're not.
I am. I'm doing a day. We're putting a show on. We're selling tickets for them. That's one show and one show only. I could ask those two if they would do it.
That would be so great. I mean, I'm all in for that. Listen, you've got some other big news, actually. Tell me about YouTube.
Right, OK, so you know me, Mark. I'm always excited about YouTube. This was a double-page spread in the Weekend magazine this weekend. And, of course, YouTube, in the early days, it was all about silly cat videos. But listen to this. They're saying, is it going to take over television completely? And I think the answer to that is yes. I think you already know that because I've seen some of your interviews on there and you're getting over 1 million views on a lot of your stuff on YouTube.
I'm very lucky like that. Very loyal audience. The Mark Dolan Show on YouTube. Check it out.
500 hours of content is loaded every 60 minutes. So how people are finding you, you're like a twig in a rainforest, but they are, and that's good.
It's not the first time someone said twig about me. You're welcome.
The audience is 2.7 billion every month. There's a channel called Mr. Beast. They've got 471 million subscribers. Now, the difference is YouTube used to be watched on iPhones and laptops. Now, the majority of the audience are watching it on their flat-screen TVs. New smart TVs come with YouTube already installed, so it's massive.
And of course, let's not forget, probably around 30,000 people are watching this show as we speak on YouTube.
Absolutely.
And may I say thank you for watching.
And if they're not watching live, they will catch up
Bingo.
Later. So the difference is now, if you and I have got an idea for a TV show, we're waiting to get it commissioned. The Repair Shop on the BBC took over 10 years to get commissioned before we saw it on TV. We wouldn't do that now. We would go and get a backer and we would do it on YouTube. You and I, we don't have to worry about commissioning it. So Harry Hill's got his own show on YouTube. Anton Deck have got Belter Box, which is their the home of their podcast, Hanging Out. They're just reminiscing. And reminiscing is big. And let's just say to the BBC, thank you for the BBC archive. The problem is it shows how wonderful the BBC was and not is, but I've got a great clip I'd like to share with you.
I want it now.
OK.
Give it to me. Forget about the clip.
This is 1977. I'm sure you may have been too young to see it at the time, but I'm sure you've seen it anyway. This is John Noakes climbing Trafalgar Square, climbing Nelson's Column. Just watch this.
I found myself literally hanging from the ladder with nothing at all beneath me.
You told me there was overhang, but you didn't tell me it leant to one side.
No, that was the awkward part.
Oh, God. It's a long way up, really, isn't it? You're going to tie me on? Are you going to tie me on just to make me feel safe?
Yeah, I'll tie you on.
Right.
Just move around here a little bit more.
Yeah.
I'll just put
oh, my goodness. I mean, health and safety, forget about it.
Yeah, so for our friends listening on the radio, that was John, 1977, climbing with no safety harness up to the top of Nelson's Column to clean the pigeon poo off of Nelson's hat. So that's the kind of thing you can see on BBC Archive. It was voted the greatest moment in children's television. And there's arts, lifestyle, property, chat, gardening, nature, classic cars, food, so much. Oh, and Chris Evans recorded just down the corridor for Virgin Radio. He's brilliant TFI Unplugged.
Yeah, it's a brilliant show.
I think Dean might have a clip of that, but I'm not sure.
Well, look, I'll tell you something. I'm not. There isn't time because I just want Dyke all the way now. Okay, and I've actually craved Dyke for a long time. And so therefore, Alex, let me ask you about the ticket scams. This is shocking.
Right. Okay. So this is awful, really. Football fans, music lovers, and holiday makers are losing out by almost £1 million every month due to ticket scams. So what the fraudsters are doing is they either disappear with your money and there are no tickets, or worse than that, they issue you with a fake ticket.
No.
Then you